tonight. Leo, we acknowledge all three selectmen are present. Town administrator, town recording officer, and our videotaker. All right, gentlemen, we have some minutes from last week.
Lean, I wanted to double check one thing on this with you. There was one change that we reviewed that wasn't incorporated in it.
Okay.
Do you have a copy
Yeah,
of it?
Britain's the list. I did make some changes too.
After, or
After you
Yes.
guys did. I made you look good.
maybe you already took care of it?
Possibly. This is grammatical. Very good grammatical.
I got it.
Closing tomorrow.
I caught a couple
Septic system in.
mistakes too, I was gonna redo it and send it back to you, but I thought you weren't here, so I didn't bother.
I told him that, wait till
Dayton all said for the 2018 town meeting, we would like to have the funding in place for the start of Highway Bridge. I thought, oh,
Yeah.
we did fix it, okay.
Yep.
It wasn't on the one I reviewed tonight
Right.
before I came.
Right.
Okay, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Let's do it first. Can I hear a motion?
Motion to accept the minutes from the December 14th regular meeting as amended.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
I figured you two were
Normally we're waiting
abstaining.
for Bob.
A lot of people here tonight, there are on the agenda, but the next business, we open up for public comment. And if you have anything to say, please state your name and your address, and we'll go from there. Okay, public comment now. I'm gonna start with in the back row. Leo, anything? Public comment? If you got a public comment, just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. No one else? Excellent.
That was a fast one.
Yeah, exactly. I was told I can't go too fast. We have to make sure we give everyone appropriate time here. Okay, first up on the agenda, we wanna talk about, it's a revisiting of the milfoil. Is Amy here?
Hi there, I'm
I
Renee.
got your letter. Come on up and explain to us what's going on. There's room over here for you.
Okay, great. I believe Lou will be joining me as well. So, I have some handouts for you guys that provide a summary. I understand some of you are new to the board, is that correct? Okay,
We've been voting on milfoil for years.
for years, yes.
Tell me about it.
I have some extra copies that I'll pass around to the back if anybody's interested. So, for the record.
You're gonna talk about the new,
The new.
defoliant.
So, thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Amy Slabula, and I'm a freshwater biologist for the state of New Hampshire. So, I am glad to answer questions or have you direct me in what to focus on. I can talk about the herbicide first if you want me to do that, since that's new.
Well, we had two concerns. One was the herbicide being not approved yet by the federal government, anticipating the federal government.
Yep.
And then why are we being selected as a test bed?
Mhm.
Because with, the group has done, working with physical inspections and divers, they've done so well in mitigating the milfoil. It was a good year this past year.
Sure.
Now, and we have some herbicides which work well. Why are we introducing a new herbicide which we don't know, which won't work, and we could set us back years? And that's a real threat. I mean, we're taking a risk with dollars, the quality of the lake, and we may be entertaining a herbicide which just may not work. And we don't like being called a test bed for a non-approved herbicide. That was one thing. And then Bob, to my right here, had concerns of how much of a program do we really need, since it was, we had such a successful year. It's gotta be maintained, but at what level? And the only thing we notice is, as time goes on, the town portion goes up, the state portion goes down. And, you know, if we're gonna be a test bed, what do we get? Do we get anything out of this, other than being a test?
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
one other thing I had, I've been following this quite a few years too, but I think there was 1 or 2 years where the treatment wasn't as good as it is at today's level, so we had already had a beginning treatment that wasn't as good, and, they had troubles with, and I think they changed that and altered it, and now we seem to have good results.
And that's where I'm going, that we don't wanna go back in history and repeat history
Yeah.
and be stuck with a very unfavorable result.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
All right, first I'll dive in on the new herbicide. So Procelicor is a new product by Cipro Corporation. It's a different company than the one that makes the 2,4-D, which you guys have been using in Gorham Pond. The 2,4-D works well. I think you guys have seen lack of success with Diquat in the past, which was a product that we were using in the late 80s and into the 90s. And then when we got into around 2000 or so, we switched over to using 2,4-D more. You guys have had good success with that, and I've been involved in the Gorham Pond project since the 90s, late 90s, when I started with the state, and I can tell you Gorham Pond looks a lot better than it has since I've known Gorham Pond.
okay.
And I'm sure a lot of folks around here probably agree, because you can actually see into the pond and you can boat on the pond without the propeller getting all gunked up, so it's better. And I agree with you that it's concerning to switch away from what we're doing. So the Procelicor is not an unknown. I actually was a volunteer for a test case that we did not far from here in Hopkinton. So if you've ever been out on the Hopkinton Lake system, you know how weedy and how milfoil full that is. So if you've ever put in over near Elmbrook Park or at the other boat launch and boated out there, it's loaded with milfoil. So we did a 1 acre test plot. I was the researcher on the study, and I worked with the manufacturer of the chemical, put the chemical in the lake in a 1 acre plot, and we studied before the treatment, during the treatment, after the treatment, and 1 year post-treatment. And I can tell you that based on the results of that study, we saw very good control of the milfoil in the 1 acre plot. Now, understanding that the rest of the lake all around this 1 acre plot had a ton of milfoil, we controlled the milfoil in that plot for at least a year and counting. The milfoil was gone from the test plot. It was still around the edges where we didn't treat, so there was really slow regrowth back into that plot, but good control. The benefit of going with the new chemistry is that sometimes the plants get used to seeing the same thing over and over again, and you build up bacteria in the sediments that can immediately start breaking down the chemical that you've been using for a long time because of recognition. Just like in humans, sometimes drugs stop working because you get used to it. We haven't seen that yet with the 2,4-D, and I'm not forcing you guys to switch chemistries. The only reason why I selected Gorham Pond among 8 or 9 other water bodies in New Hampshire was because I believe your acreage that you need to treat next year is gonna be small. And I think that it's a good test case for studies when you have a small population of something that you're trying to manage. I don't wanna start using this product on multiple acres when it's a newer product. I have full faith in the product based on what I saw and the data that I've collected. Another benefit of the product is that when you've seen the treatment boat out doing the treatments on Gorham Pond, they have bags and bags of herbicide, or they have barrels and barrels of liquid herbicide. That's a lot of material to put in the water. This chemical, the new product, is actually measured in a graduated cylinder, mixed with water, and put out there. So there's a lot less chemical that's put in there. Granted, it's more concentrated, but the toxicology of this product is a lot cleaner. There are fewer use restrictions. It's not as potentially impacting to other plants that we don't want to kill. It doesn't kill fish, it doesn't kill insects. The use restrictions are less because the herbicide is literally gone in 4 days. Whereas 2,4-D, you see the concentration slowly go up a week after treatment as the herbicide's coming off the pellet, and then slowly going down 2 to 3 weeks post-treatment instead of 4 days after treatment. So there are some values to it. I'm not gonna make you use it if you don't wanna use it. We have 2,4-D as the fallback. So that's sort of the scenario with the new product.
Now, in the 2,4-D, have you ever done a similar study on that?
Yeah, 2,4-D is probably one of the most studied herbicides out there.
And how did that do on that 1 acre plot?
We've been using 2,4-D widely in infested water bodies for probably 15 years now, and we pretty much know how it works. It works well. It works in a very similar fashion, sort of acting like a growth hormone on the milfoil, very specific to the milfoil. So they're very similar, except that their chemical mode of action, without getting too much into the details, the chemical mode of action in the cells of the plant is a little bit different between the two herbicides. But generally, you still see 2 weeks post-treatment, the milfoil plants will start to collapse to the bottom and decompose. So visually, you're gonna see about the same thing that you would with the 2,4-D treatment.
Bob, any questions?
Well, you know, and I was concerned with the fact that last year when we did the milfoil, it was found there wasn't much. I guess there might have been a few dives left that you had to do.
Yep.
And it was pervasive because of the drought, I guess it bloomed more. And now we're looking at almost an equal number to treat. So are we treating a different area, or are we still treating
Dollar
the
wise, I
same
think he's looking
areas?
Right, yep, so I don't know the answer to that. You are exactly right that by the end of the season, I think I found maybe 14 stems of milfoil in Gorham Pond when I did my fall survey. So it looked really good. The divers did go in, they hand removed those, I have their reports and reviewed them, and they got everything that I had marked and guided them to. So I don't know what Gorham Pond's gonna look like next year. What I like to do when I'm managing water bodies is to plan for the worst, and oftentimes you would have less to control than you would expect. And that's my hope, but if you don't plan and budget for it in advance, you won't have the resources available to go full bore if you need to. So when I'm budgeting state money for projects, I always look to make sure that we're covered. And then if it turns out to be less, so much the better. So that's sort of the approach that I take. I always go a little bit more than I think we're gonna need. I'm hoping that you don't need to treat in 2018 and that you just need to dive, but I'd like to be prepared to be able to treat if we have to. And in terms of funding, which was your second
Right.
concern.
Incentives.
Right, so there are no incentives right now for using the new herbicide. The company itself has guaranteed that you're gonna see 95% control or greater for at least 2 years. So while their product is more expensive, they're standing behind it and saying that if you drop below 95% control, if you treat, then they will give you the free product in the second year to treat to get that control level back up to 95%. The only cost that would be incurred in year 2 would be costs for the contractor to go in and do the treatment. So they're guaranteeing 2 years where 2,4-D doesn't do that. So that's the first time in any herbicide that I've seen, that I've worked with, where you get a company guaranteeing a product like that.
Will the federal government approve it? Again, it's not approved, so does that put restrictions on anything?
It doesn't yet, and that's one of the main reasons why I also have 2,4-D on there for an option. So when they go to permitting, if we go forward with the project, they'll put Procelicor and 2,4-D on the permit for Department of Agriculture so that you're covered either way. In terms of the grant funding, you're competing against 45 other towns, lake associations for funding. And even though the contractor costs haven't really gone up significantly from year to year, the cost of the chemical, the product, the herbicide has gone up. And another thing that isn't exactly transparent is that diving is more expensive than herbicide treatment in the long run. It's about $1,000 or $1,100 a day for a dive company to go out and do that work. Whereas chemical treatment is between $650 and $750 per acre. You're not diving on an acre a day, so the cost comparison is a little bit different. But what we're seeing statewide is a reduced use of herbicide because most of the infestations that we're managing actively, just like Gorham Pond, we're seeing the infestations reduced so that we don't need to treat, we just dive, but costs are going up because divers are more expensive. So that, coupled with the competition with other water bodies for grant funds, means that I can't give out the 40 or 50% that I used to in terms of grants. So I try not to go below 30%. And in the scenario that I handed out to you, I don't have a number picked out yet because I haven't done all the math yet for 2018. But if you need to go and plan for a budget piece, I would say I'm not gonna give a grant any less than 30%. I would love to be able to give 40% again if I can, but I haven't determined what the match is gonna be, but a safe bet is saying 30 and just hoping for more, if you have to put a number on it.
What's your, as a biologist, what's your professional recommendation?
I'm perfectly comfortable with either 2,4-D or Procelicor. I recommended both. If you're uncomfortable with Procelicor in the first year, I'm not gonna force you to do it, you can stick with 2,4-D.
Right, but the thing is, we're not as educated as you are.
I have no problem going with
Okay.
Procelicor. I am fully comfortable with it, so if you guys locally are comfortable with it, I think it would do a good job, and based on what I saw in Hopkinton, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
All we can read is basically the internet. And sometimes you get slanted some ways,
Right.
and so I don't wanna, have my, by aberrant article slant me in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking that question.
and I'm not paid by a chemical company to sell their product,
Okay,
so I'm just a biologist who wants to manage the milfoil in the lake, so I'm coming to you from that perspective.
and why you say it's part of a study, what do you wanna get out of it?
I want to be able to switch to a product that is gonna give us better longevity of control,
Okay,
with less product and less non-target impacts.
and that's the potential of this new product.
Exactly. The chemistry is far better, and you're putting a lot less product in the water than other chemistries.
So we have some time, since both chemicals are listed on the permit that we're applying for, we have some time to make a decision.
You do.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Nothing better on either product as far as the fish and
No.
other,
No, everything is equal in terms of not being toxic to fish, not being toxic to insects. Understanding that this is all at the recommended label rate. If somebody were to go self-treat, and I've seen this in New Hampshire, where somebody buys product and puts it out in the lake in their own, off their own pontoon boat, you can't control the chemistry that way, but when you have a licensed applicator doing the treatment, the treatments are safe. If you're not following label rate, it definitely could be toxic to humans and
somebody
to
from the
animals.
public can actually buy this, it's not,
They can,
Really?
yeah. Not Procelicor, but some of the other products you can order online, and we've seen it and it's illegal. Because people always assume more is better, and when it comes to the herbicides that we use for milfoil, it's actually less is better, because if you put more in, you're gonna harm other things. We go as low as we can go without harming anything else, except the milfoil.
Can I ask that you just, can we see the, forward the MDS sheets on both these products to us?
Yeah,
That would
I
be
can get
helpful.
those for you,
Great.
yeah.
And Bob has another question.
Yeah, and you may be able to or not be able to answer this, but where we get a match from the state of 30%, well, I'm using the number you have here now. If we have excess revenues left from the cleanup, and there's possibly gonna be a warrant article that asks that we can put this money towards future cleanups. Okay, so with that money set aside, that got part of this 30%, if we approve monies the following year with the money coming out of that other fund that, from the warrant article,
Yep, like a trust
commingled,
fund.
and I'll use like New Hampshire does with the Department of Transportation, federal money, they have a revolving fund, so we'll call it revolving fund. Will we still qualify for the maximum match, or are we reduced to just what we're contributing?
Not at all. You would be eligible for whatever match we are offering across the board to the other lakes every year. It's not gonna disqualify you.
Even if we had used that prior
Right,
to get, okay.
right. And I actually encourage towns to do non-lapsing, continually appropriated funds like that, because that way you have a kitty, if you will, like a milfoil trust fund, to go back in there and do that, so that you build money. And like I said, I often.
we're pretty conservative, you know.
But the piggyback
I
on
get
Bob's
it.
question though, let's say we only use 40% of the money,
Yeah.
which you contributed 30% of that, do we get to keep that in the revolving fund?
No,
That's gotta go back to the
we
state.
reimburse, well, we don't give you money up
Right,
front.
we submit the bills,
Exactly, and
Right.
we'll pay you 30%
Understood.
on that,
whatever we spend.
right?
But I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified, so
Yeah.
people knew that if you're applying, that you would get that grant that year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're not gonna disqualify you because you have more or less local funds. And my funding on the state level is also continually appropriated non-lapsing. So if I don't spend all the money that I grant out in a given year, I carry that forward into the next year and appropriate that. That's why I don't know your number right now, because your grants expire from last year on the 31st of this month.
Okay.
So I need to see how much I have left over and carry over so I can bring that forward. So it's a moving math question right now.
Now, one other quick question for you. If we carry this money over, like might be requested on a warrant article, like Bob said, and there are funds in there to take care of it, the townspeople most likely are not gonna keep voting a bunch of money into a fund if it's pretty well funded for what we've seen spent in the past. So if that happens and we don't apply for a grant for 1 year, do we go to the bottom of the barrel as far as grants go, or 'cause every year we've had grants?
I don't do that. We used to go to the point where we used to prorate you based on how long it's been since you've asked for funding. But what I found was that fostered a wait and call me when it gets bad again scenario, and I don't like to do that, because then you have this
Much harder.
oscillating cycle. I wanna continue to whittle down the growth until it's minimal in a water body, which makes it easier to manage. I don't wanna keep peaking out, dropping, peaking and dropping with treatments. I wanna keep you steady state going down.
How many years have we had grants in Dunbarton?
Whew. Off the top of my head, 6, 7, or 8 years in a row.
Right now?
Yeah. Yep.
And so you're saying if we get enough funds in that account, we don't apply for a grant 1 year, that,
In other words, it won't impact us
You would want
negatively.
to, you would
Yeah, you
want
still
to
want
apply
to-
for a
Yeah.
grant
Yeah.
all the
Still-
time,
you would
because
still
you're
have
not
monies.
spending your own money.
right?
Yeah, still apply, because even if you just move to a couple dive days a year, which a lot of leagues that I work with have,
We just won't pay you for that much, and we save, we all,
Exactly.
you know, the money.
Save it at least.
And more goes in the kitchen.
Okay,
But
exactly.
at some point, there's gonna become a fund of money there, and you're gonna have a town applying for a grant that doesn't actually need it if there's not much need there. So, you're
Right.
gonna have to go to the ones that need it, I would think.
Yeah, but it's a need in general. So the state funds are there for a reason, and I wouldn't discourage you from applying for them, even if you do have local money. If you apply for a grant and offset your costs, that just makes your local money go farther and longer. So I would still apply for a grant every year, even if you have to do 2 days of diving.
Okay,
It's
I
worth
just
it.
wanna be very clear on it before we have it on a warrant article and voters are voting on it, and then we come 2 or 3 years down the road and it changes everything that we thought about.
Yeah, you won't be penalized if you don't ask for it, but I encourage you to ask for it, because it'll help you locally.
Okay.
and avoid those spikes.
Yeah, we don't wanna do that.
Okay. I feel pretty good. Okay, I wanna say thank you for coming in, because
No
we did
problem.
have some concerns,
Sure.
and even the residents had some concerns too.
Sure, yeah,
And, so I'm glad we are on the list for both options.
Okay.
So we just gotta decide with the community which way we're gonna go.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem.
Okay,
I'm close,
thank you very much.
glad to come if you need me.
Yeah, and if anything changes on, give us an update, I guess.
Of course, yeah, I can get information through Lou, or I can contact you guys directly.
And those MDS would be great,
Yeah.
just give me.
Yeah, I'll get those to you, I made a note of it.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we have now we have a bond request reduction from Stetson Hill LLC. Next on the agenda.
So in your packet, you have a North Point Engineering summary sheet, and attached to that is his recommended breakdown of, guaranteed release amount and remaining appropriation amount, and then you also have, a summary sheet from Lemontown Builders based on his, their experience, and then I've asked Jeff Crosby to join us, to, assist you with the decision based on his experience, so everything you need there.
That one says no.
Okay, well, we have two numbers already, and I think we're gonna get another recommendation. I'm gonna open the floor up to the road agent, who's gonna oversee some of the, so I say the finalization. He's he's a selectman representative out there. So, Mr. Jeff Crosby, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, I mean, I kinda perused through Kevin's stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's right, if it's wrong, or whatever. I don't wanna get in a big debate on whether a certain item's done or not done. The bottom line is there are several outstanding things, some of them are major, some are minor.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I want the town to be in the driver's seat here.
Well, I perused spreadsheets, I'm all in favor of and it's time to reduce it, I really think it's time.
Yeah, no,
I wanna keep keep the open dialogue here, please.
Yep.
I just wanna make sure we have a continuing guarantee that we have enough funds, so we have bring it to full completion,
I understand.
and that's the only thing.
Yeah, let's let the applicant, discuss his proposal, cause I haven't.
As stated in his letter, North Point, last time they were out there was in the middle of October.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that have happened since then. Which leads me to the number that I was at. But, I'm not gonna sit here and debate.
Understood.
I'm probably $20,000 apart after I looked at his number and looked at ours again.
It didn't look that far from your end number
Yeah,
here.
so if Jeff is content with the 139, and the board's content with that, I'm willing to accept that.
As opposed to your total on the side here was
Correct.
100.
Yeah, willing to go along with the engineer's number, which is closer to like 40 probably.
Yeah, are you good with the engineer's number?
Well, I was kind of the impression, I'm not sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
that we kind of do like a 1.5 type deal on a lot of stuff like that.
okay.
50% more, like.
Well, he's already multiplying, he's got two multipliers in there.
Yeah,
He's got a 10% multiplier, then he adds another 10% on top of his multiplier, so he's really multiplying 21, 22%.
yeah, like I said, it was kind of hard to follow. So I just looked at the bottom line number. I mean, I think, what's your timeline on finishing this stuff up?
Next summer.
Next summer?
I think we've demonstrated that we're willing to work with the town and do a good job.
This is 150K reduction, 150K final retainer, it sounds reasonable.
140 is much better,
I know, but I gotta err on the side of supporting
I don't know.
road agent, it's a major reduction, we're starting with a major reduction already. And the thing is,
What I like to do at the end of the job is, I don't wanna walk it with the engineer. I wanna walk it with the road agent.
well, it's,
You know,
yeah, understood.
And go through it and satisfy him. I live in the town, so, and I live in that project. So I don't want to have something that isn't gonna be satisfactory to everybody, including myself having to drive it by it every day.
Okay,
So I guess if you want 150,
just make a nice round number, and that way,
That's fine.
that's fine,
I'm good, as long as they're good with it, I'm good with it.
Same here.
okay. Then,
$100 more.
It's only money.
No, it's not,
well, the thing is, it's a significant reduction, you have a huge amount of, the bond is huge already.
650.
Yeah, it's coming down quite a bit,
So what we're saying is you're gonna release 500.
essentially, yes.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I need a motion, gentlemen, down me, I need a motion. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that, I can start it out, and then help me
Yeah,
out
go
with the
ahead.
correction. That we do a bond release, or
Bond reduction.
reduction, recommendation, reduced to $500,000 to have a remaining of $150,000 at this time. For the Overlook Estate subdivision.
I'll second your motion.
Let's discuss it now, anything else we need to discuss here? I think it's pretty straightforward. And again,
No, I think, only in the recommendation, I'd like to say that we reviewed the town engineers.
yeah. And the thing is, I discussed this with the road agent earlier, and I saw, our engineer was, I think maybe in a rush to look at all things that, like, he said some of the monuments weren't in, and I know there are monuments out there, and
Well, we got a letter from the surveyor, there's 33 monuments in place out of 50.
exactly, so things, there's some, stuff that he's obviously, I'm not gonna take it at gospel. And so, that's why I'm erring on the side of the town, so.
Now, do we wanna call it bond release number 1 or number 2? He stated it as number 2 because he already had a previous recommendation. Or do we wanna state it as a combined 1 and 2?
There never was a
There never
bond
was one.
release.
No,
Yeah,
But we,
it's a reduction bond.
yeah, I was on the board and I
Oh,
remember
that's
you,
right, too.
you kept it there, yeah.
I don't think we need to read, this is the first one.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. There'll be, paperwork will be forthcoming,
all right, thank you.
thank you.
And we do appreciate you keeping that bond in place while you were doing that construction.
We wanna keep your neighborhood preserved, and a
Yeah.
good,
I don't want Jeff to plow my driveway every time.
although I have to do one thing, he did tell me about one thing though. I heard about sprinkler heads, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. What house with sprinklers too?
Yeah, they only pop.
I know, I realize.
They're coming out in the spring.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
How long before I'm up again? Roughly. Ballpark.
you're at the bottom, but I don't believe that the discussion for at least two of these will take more than 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know. There's-
Good half hour, 40 minutes. in
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
there's-
I'll be back in a half.
Take 40 minutes.
All right, 'cause I got some stuff I gotta do.
Go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Mike, coming, the one up. Okay, we're gonna do the, budget review for the building department now, all right?
Okay, good.
You can give me a hand with us too.
I think you're gonna give me a copy of it, then. Put one in your
Okay.
pocket. I printed one off
Yeah, the only
twice.
thing we were gonna just chase that.
Oh, no, let me go get a
No,
clean
you
copy.
can.
No, that's the stock wrench, let me get it, it'll take me 1 second.
You need something. You need something.
No, I just didn't print your budget. You wanna go to the cemetery?
Yes, we can do that, we get that paperwork. Okay, we're gonna go out of order for a moment, we're gonna, the cemetery will come on up and then we'll talk about cemetery frustrations. Don,
Do
you
you have one of these sheets?
Leave, one more sheet.
Okay, we got a cemetery one.
We'll kind of
When
do
you bat about
cemetery.
it.
Yeah.
Let's all get the page there.
What's it look like? Sure, that's this. Yeah.
All right, you said where's Mike?
I don't have it yet. I've got this one, I've got this one. I don't think I was given that one, let me go right here, so I have another sheet right here. Okay. Okay, Don,
Yes.
you're up, tell us about what's going on.
Well, we've got the cemetery budget right where it was last year, and we've moved a couple of dollars around. We moved $600 into our mapping program for CIMS. That's for the cemetery, they use Google.
Got it,
and,
yeah,
That'll maintain our computer and everything else that we have going.
So you are gonna have them mapped electronically now?
Well, we've been working on it.
Yeah.
This program has been around a while, but we're trying to be proactive to get it,
Yeah.
to function and,
Who's doing most of that programming?
Judy runs the computer and that, but, with Brian and we've done, talks with him there. The problem that we run into is that the graves aren't in straight rows. So it's, we're trying to, we've got the Google map and then we go out there physically and try to put everything in with measurements and everything.
Don, I'm just a little concerned, I'm looking at the budget was expended in 2017. There's a significant amount of money which was not expended. In other words,
Well,
Under cemetery maintenance, there was 3,700 that wasn't used at all.
we're going to be, doing the cremains gardens and putting walkways through. And, part of that, this coming year, we do have a donation of $1,000 that will go towards that also. But
Those
there's,
walkways you said?
yeah, I don't have it on there, but here's, basically, what we're looking at, to kind of give you an idea, is to put, you know, wood trim, pressure treated, and then have the pea gravel like we have along here, but we have to have it so it can be mowed. And, to give you some idea, Mark was able to do the building here for around, what, 1,500 or something like that? And, I think the max on a bid would be, you know, under 5,000, where we don't have to put it out, but we'll probably invite several people to make bids so we can, you know, see what we're looking at. But somebody like J&J could have a good opportunity to do something, you know, cause it's like a 2-day project maybe.
Right.
You know, and so, that's it, and then we'll probably do the same for up at the Page's Corner.
So you couldn't see any other areas in here that you could reduce this at all and not keep it flat?
Not really, because, we feel that, there's several things that we need to do. We also wanna, open up the back side here, and then we're gonna have to pay for, you know, engineering on that. So,
So, one other quick thing is, you moved the money,
we moved it
out
out
of your fencing.
right.
Now, I know there was some concern and some talk about redoing some of the fencing right over here.
Well, we don't have to have the back fenced, and that any longer. In fact, you don't have to have a fence at all, from what I understand. So,
Yeah, but like this fence here is more, I think, for looks
Yeah.
and aesthetics and.
well, Leo, fixed that up here last spring, I believe it was. And that, but yeah, it will need to be replaced.
Okay, well, since it's flat at this point, you're not asking for any, there's no major outliers, I think,
Right.
we'll accept this and we'll put it into the budget process, and,
Okay.
it's gotta go be scrutinized, and then as we scrutinize it, we'll probably get back, most likely we'll get back to you on that, if there's any
Okay.
major changes. But I don't see anything, any outliers. Bob, do you have any comment?
Nope.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Cause I stepped out the maintenance, which is the lawn care, you awarded that to?
Yes,
the
and
truck-
we talked to him, and, we informed him that it's 30 days that we can cancel him, or vice versa. But,
And the amount of his bid it came in at, do you recall off the top?
it came in at 7,500, I believe, so that would be an increase there. And,
So his price went up that much money from 57?
well, it's been the same for 3 years. And with that though, we also, you know, told him that we've gotta have a regular mowing, so when he mows, he's gotta send us a notice that he's mowed the pages, he's mowed this. He's trimmed so that we can go out and physically check it all the time. When I was walking around to do the, put the markers in, for, wreaths across Dunbarton, why, there was some grass, you know, in an open area that was like prairie grass, you know? So, we told him, we said, we've had complaints and everything else, but we only got one bid back. We sent it out to several, but we got one bid back and it was his, but,
Now, did you guys ask for bids like we
Oh, yeah.
put it out?
yeah, we
And
posted
only
it.
one came up?
Yeah.
Oh, we approached the other gentleman that does the other lawn, and he said that he walked all 3, and it was such a mess, he said it would take him hours to clean that area up, so he declined a bid. He just couldn't do it.
Well,
So,
the thing is, I view this as it's a new cemetery, there's several new members on the board there, and they're just trying to get their feet on the ground, and I think, what he's describing is they got a game plan for this coming year, and I look forward to some of the great changes that are going
Yeah.
forward.
It's taken a while for us to get our arms around what we can do, what we can't do, and,
okay, so this $9,400 you're asking for includes lawn care and other incidentals? Is that-
Right.
Okay, okay, so it's not entirely lawn care.
yeah. And the lawn care is 7,500, and then, when we have a funeral, why, it's $50 each time for him to come out 2-3 days in advance and prepare the ground and everything, you know, mow around the area to make sure that it's standing tall for the funerals. There's, spraying for poison ivy, things along this lines on all the rock walls, stuff like that, that's $250 each time. You know, so it adds up, and then anything else that we want done, you know, it gives us a little wiggle room there.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Don. You want it?
Thank you, Don.
Appreciate your flexibility, Don, you got out of here early.
Yeah, we-
Unless you wanna take that out of line.
Well, the thing is, since I have Don here, do you wanna, we can, there's no public hearing, he wants to donate a little more money from the other project.
Yeah, I would say, let's take care of it, I think.
Yeah.
We're on him.
Jenny, what happened,
Stay
okay?
till the end, sure.
Then, Bob, I just wanna say, reads across Dunbarton,
Yes.
congratulations for a job well done.
Thank you.
And, it was well, I mean, it was nice to see those weeds up here. And I understand you wanna continue, contribute to the endowment.
Yes, well, we're doing real good with the endowment, we'll have a total, I turned in some expenses from the chili supper and stuff like that, and, just things that we did, but I think we'll still have $1,500 to $2,000 in there.
Good seed money for next year.
I picked up another, 5-year commitment, sponsor, and, Stosh and Alita, their business. So that'll add to the kitty, and then I approached Granite State Communications, and that looks very good.
Very good. Then I'd like to make a motion then for RSA,
For this dollar amount,
right?
cause I just
Yeah.
took $75 more.
I tell you, it just keeps coming in.
Yeah.
For RSA 31:95-B, Roman numeral 3, paragraph B, that we accept the total of $1,326.50 from the fundraising for Reach Across Dunbarton. We received this from Don Larson.
1326.51.
Thank you.
I need a second, gentlemen.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? This will be seed money for the next year. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Don. Kudos to you.
Thank you,
Job well done.
Thanks for your hard work. Are you guys going for the coffee tomorrow?
Just weather permitting.
Yeah, I was just looking. We'll see.
Dawn, just quickly, do you have somebody to donate for the coffee tomorrow? Somebody bringing anything
Oh,
in?
no, we're going to Windmill,
Oh, okay,
restaurant.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a road trip.
Because without Gary here, I didn't know
Yeah.
whether you needed anything. Thank you.
Okay, where we left off now, building department.
All right.
Okay, so this is the only one we just got for the building department?
Correct,
Okay.
the only change that's, you can see it's scratched out to Boca, I have updated that to ICC in the program, so when you get the clean copy, which I think would be included in your, expense report that I get here, you'll see it's referencing the ICC, I just didn't print off the newer.
Okay, so we have,
Let's see here,
Building secretary,
yeah,
There's one coming in, one left.
who's that?
that's Steve's.
our new hire,
It's admin assistant.
Mary, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
that.
Will nomenclature always be, that's the state nomenclature for that position?
it's,
Because we said we changed the nomenclature when we hired.
do we wanna change it in the budget and the account numbers?
Not, well, it's administrator, it's an assistant, like an administrator for that
Okay,
department.
building administrator,
Right. Because when I remember doing the job description, the secretary
So
was.
admin building inspector is different line.
Yeah.
Supplies. She just handed this sheet to you. Right there. No? That's not it. There's draft. You got it right in your hand there.
Okay, so Mike, any outliers that we need to be out?
Yeah, just, we're looking to add more hours for my position. Just, it's difficult due to the 10 hours a week when I came on, and it's typically running into 12, 13, 14 hours, and then
Mike, do you think that that's gonna cut back now that we have somebody in there to help organize the meetings?
I don't think so, but it's hard to tell, and how we, being the elected is, if it leans out, you know, I'm supposed to stick to inspections, just,
Yeah.
you know, very minor, you know, administrative stuff, details, but, if there's not much going on, I could probably keep the hours
Well,
done.
it is getting a little busier in the economy as well, so you might have more hours just on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be more up to date with the health inspections.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And the thing is, I gotta point out his outlier this year for 2017, it was probably due to the, he's been supporting, and filling in, doing a lot of the admin work.
Doing what I can.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing.
You know, Steve was pretty well versed in it, whereas picking up where I can, and Lee has been helping me as well as Ken.
Bob, do you have any questions?
Not yet.
This will be scrutinized. And,
Oh, yeah, no.
So I just wanna make sure if there's anything we really need to know right up front as an outlier or as a critical thing, we just wanna be aware of before we start scrutinizing it.
It's pretty, we didn't spend as much on the, supplies, so we wanna, have the budget up a little bit more than what we spent, but not what we had before.
I see that, yeah?
So we're trying to hold the cost of that. The training, we still want it to be $300 a year or so.
Yeah,
That's pretty average. I forego a couple of training sessions, whereas we're a little short-handed
mm-hmm,
in the department. But that's probably, that $300 figure would probably stick to it. And the dues, I pay my own dues, but we do have to pay dues to the town too. So,
Lean, the overtime line, that's for when the person works meetings and stuff?
Correct.
yeah, that's how it is explained.
Okay.
And that averages about like 60 hours a
Okay.
year, so.
Dave, any questions?
No, I'm just looking at the percentage of increase on the building inspector portion of it. That looks like to be the lion's share that
Yeah.
went up over the previous year's budget,
Yeah, it is.
which Mike has explained to us. They tried to knock some of the others down. Is the 42,065 the actual that we're at now, Lean?
That's what I'll be budgeting, if you look at that,
Sheet
draft
just-
wage
for-
scale.
For the annual,
Bob?
for the
So,
admin
In
secretary.
2017, we had budgeted 43,650 for the, previous
I see
administrator.
that, yep.
And based on the, 6 months at the interim rate or probationary period that we came up with, which is the 1923, basing that on 6 months for 40 hours a week times 26, it comes up to 19,999. And then upon the 6-month review, then
So
we
the
would
answer-
move,
The answer is yes.
yes,
Okay.
that's correct,
That's
okay.
perfect.
But you see it on that breakdown below,
Yeah, I
it's
do.
based on this calculation and then 6 months of each.
I just wanted to make sure it was based on the actual of that one we just hired, so.
And it
Yep.
is, which is great.
Because she's starting next week.
Super,
Okay.
super. Okay,
That's all we need.
thank you, Mike.
So, yeah, I can't think of enough to explain.
No, it's
Pretty
it's
straightforward.
straightforward, which we appreciate. We don't
Well,
compromise.
Lee felt that, well, it's up to you if you wanna come, and I said, well, if you have a question, then I think I should be there.
Yeah, and this is the, like the first draft of it, and
We just wanna make sure that if there's anything, the other biggest outlier is the increase in your hours.
At least the hours,
Yeah.
yeah, just to make sure we can get the coverage, and if it gets slow for whatever reason, any given week, then.
Right, and as
Okay
Dave
with
said,
working less.
the economy's picking up, and there may be more stuff going on next year.
Yeah.
well, and this is a department, there's not a lot of other, things to take it out of or juggle it down. I mean, you did reduce your supplies, but there's not really any other line items
No.
to take it
I
out
got
of.
lots
so-
of labels for.
It's
Just
a raw
a
straight
sidestep,
cost.
just a tiny bit, if you go to the revenues and you look at page, page 2,
How about you just
or
tell
actually,
us?
mine is not stapled in order, so I'm afraid, I hope you guys have all 3 pages.
Go ahead.
We're looking at, it would be actually on page 1, building permits. We actually budgeted anticipated revenue of $25,000. It's the license permits and fees, about 4 accounts down, 6 numbers down. We budgeted 25,000 for building department revenue. Is that page 1? Look at the top and see if we're on page 1. I might have
Page
stapled
2.
them out of order.
I was
I
American.
did staple them out of order, I apologize.
It's okay.
So 6 numbers down, you see the asterisk, it says 25,000 is what we budgeted this year for anticipated revenue.
Right there.
We
Yeah,
actually came
right
in
there.
at 39,875, so we've been busy.
Did that include current use?
No, current use is a separate line at the very top that says land and current use highlighted in yellow. It says 100,000 I budgeted, we're currently at 48 collected for current use, and we still have land and current use outstanding. I've got 3 more that we're processing. So, we're not quite
Are
where
those gonna be processed by the end of the year?
they're gonna continue to come in until 2 months after the year, so it's an accrual,
Okay.
basis, so a little bit of juggling there. So he has had a good year for revenue. Last year, we took in 25,677, this year we're almost at 40. So it's been a busy year.
Almost
few more.
enough to cover.
A few more permits for it. What's that?
Almost enough to cover them.
That's good. I think that's the idea, right?
Or reduce your hours so you're making money, no?
Well, if it's a higher rate, I don't care. So,
Enjoy, Mike,
all
thank
right,
you.
well, thank you very much,
Yeah.
happy holidays, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for coming, Mike.
Hey, John, come on up.
Come on up, he said.
The hot seat's ready.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
See you soon.
Clear this place right out.
Called you back, no?
I leave.
Oh, you must have a big one, let's say.
Okay, first line.
Wait, we gotta get it in front of us
Looks like
first.
this.
It's a handwritten one. You just handed them to me, so I made copies.
Get down to it. There it is.
Single page.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Single
Already.
page is great.
Part-time pay was 13,000 last year, that's our stipend pay, the point system that we use. We pay 1 point per call, 1 point per training. This year, our points have been basically level for the last 4 or 5 years, around 2,000 points. We divide that in the money, and this year it came out to $6.95. Not quite up to minimum wage, but, and that's per call, it's not per hour. You go for 1 hour to a call, you go 10 hours to a call, and you're gonna make $6.95. So we discussed a while ago, looking into what other towns did. I did a survey through the Capital Area Mutual Aid, for the towns in the Capital Area Mutual Aid. 11 towns replied to the survey, plus Concord, Hooks at a full time, they're not gonna reply, a few towns did. And there are 3 towns that do the same stipend system that we do, and every other town's on an hourly wage. So I'm proposing to stay with the stipend system right now. You know, unless something like calls really increase, or, you know, for us to go to an hourly wage, you know, if we paid, I roughly figured out, you know, calls vary, but, you know, how many people go to a call, I kinda averaged 6 people on a call, you paid 2 hours. Towards the 207 calls we already had, you're talking about $42,000. And I'm not gonna obviously ask for $40,000-$50,000 to go to an hourly wage, and you'd have to pay for every hour somebody worked. You know, now, I mean, you can't just pay an hour, somebody works 10 hours. And, you know, it varies, so it's hard to come up with that figure. Some towns, if we put, when I got this survey back, pay around the compact varies from a low of $9 and 46 cents to a high of $19.69 per hour. So if you average out, say $12 an hour, what towns are paying their firefighters per hourly wage. So even if you put our stipend at $12 from $6.95, and you're looking at $22,000. So, you know, this pay is a discussion for another night, and we can sit down and see how we do. But what I'd like to do is at least establish a pay rate scale for the town, so we have a rate,
And when we do that, are we gonna do similar sized towns when you do it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And, the, that gives us a pay rate, because there's sometimes, I have like some special projects I'd like to be able to pay somebody to do. We have stuff we need to do at the station, like moving a vehicle. If I have to take a truck now, we've lost, Bradford was our closest. We gotta go to Portland, Maine, Tamworth, or Hopkins, Mass. So to find somebody to go with me, it's hard for me to find somebody to volunteer and say, hey, wanna give up 4 hours, we gotta take a truck to Hopkins, Mass. You know, if I could compensate somebody for that. Other towns hire firefighters, like Loudon during the racetrack, during the races, they hire towns to send their firefighters over. If we went over there and we'd have no rate, that they could pay us. Pioneer Sportsman Club, they have shooting events, they hire EMTs down there, but they hire out of town because we don't have a rate to pay anybody. So there's some areas like that, so if we could at least get
Establish a rate.
get a rate, even when we have like a disaster in town. the
Yeah,
feds come in,
FEMA wants a rate.
FEMA will come in, because we're volunteers, basically, they pay $10, the last storm we had,
Yeah.
cause they'll pay you, they have to pay us something.
Right.
So the federal rate was $10, the last time we had it. So if you had a rate, they'll come in and pay that rate, you know, whatever your
Yeah.
firefighter's getting paid.
So you'd have an option of using the rate, but maintaining the stipend too?
Yes, exactly.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, and down the road, you know, when I'm going, if you go to a full call department, you know, obviously pay per hour. I
Right.
mean, that's gonna be the next step.
Yep.
At some point, as the town grows and you get more calls, you know, you gotta compensate these people. But, you know, I've run it by my people and they're satisfied with the system we're using. You know, they don't get rich, but it pays.
And how about the levels for the different experience, you'll have that all broken down?
Yeah, well, some of these towns do that. They go, some guys are extreme.
Now, will you do that with your rate system?
I think we'll do the firefighters at a rate,
Yeah,
the EMT at a rate, and the officers at a rate. I mean, these towns, break it down, some, you know, the lieutenant, captain,
yeah,
firefighter, paramedic.
which
chief.
obviously if they're full-time, you have to have the different
These are all
step
call
increases.
departments.
Oh, they're all called?
These are all called.
Wow,
There's a one full-time department that, replied back, and, there's one town, that town that pays $19.69. They're all called fire department, on the other side of the river, I won't tell you who they are. They go, that's the firefighter rate, $19.69, and, you know, they're paying a call lieutenant $23, they're paying their assistant chief $31.50, and the fire chief, he gets $33.35 an hour. They pay him 10 hours a week just to be the fire chief, and then he gets, every call he gets, in every meeting he goes to, he gets $33.35 an hour. So, that town is well compensating their people, but out of all the towns in the compact, other than Dunbarton, Webster, and Salisbury, everybody's fire department budget is over $150,000. So they have a bigger chunk of money to pay even their stipends out of,
right.
you know, but they still basically use the exact same system that we use. So, but like I said, that's a whole for another whole night, but
So
I bet.
between the mutual aid and the administration part-time, when you're looking at those
Yeah.
two totals, which one does the stipend come out of?
The top line.
Top line.
Top one,
Part-time.
that's all stipend pretty much?
Yep.
Okay,
You take that amount and figure the points and divide it in, and that's what we come out with.
and the timing on those, like the ones we just signed, that's how you'd like to continue doing
Once a
them?
year, yeah. Some of these towns do it twice a year.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 of the 3 did that, but it doesn't matter to me.
And all you people are okay
Yeah.
with that one time a year?
We like to get it before Christmas, but sometimes we don't get it.
You tell me that, yeah.
But anyways,
You
So
know,
that's that
they're in
one.
your basket, right? The checks
Yeah.
are in your basket.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I upped that
Yeah, we come in
1,500.
early and sign
Yeah,
it for you.
just to either, if we do come up with some kind of a scale,
Mhm.
you know, I would have a little money to pay somebody.
So that's,
But also,
Or it
Gary,
could go into
to the point, yeah, the point.
either one, if it doesn't get spent, so,
Yeah,
you know,
but the thing is, don't you at the end of the year divide, depends upon how many calls you get.
right, how many calls, how many people go, how
Right.
many training,
Chief, you
Yeah.
plan on more training, it looks like this coming year?
well, I'll explain that in a minute.
Okay.
No, I hear you loud and clear, you do a
Okay.
good job explaining it to me down the road.
But anyways, administration, my fee, that's the stipend I get for doing my administrative stuff, I do. Safety inspections, I do foster care inspections, I do daycare inspections, I do, place assembly inspections. I go to some meetings, I have to do the DHC inspections, all that, comes out of that.
Now, again, if we go up with a rate, we don't really have an increase on that line item.
Forest fire, that's just, we just keep that at 1,500, the state reimburses the town 50% for brush fires. So we do get, you know, I think the state rate now is paying 12 something for a firefighter and 14 something for a warden, but, if we had a major forest fire in Dunbarton, we'd have to pay these towns
To come in and
to come in town, and there's no way you could ever budget that. I mean, if you had to call helicopters and had 2 or 3 day brush fire, you know, it could be a huge financial hit.
So part of the
On the
reason
town.
we have to have that little buffer in our,
Yeah, I agree, yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah, so,
for
I mean,
on the town end of it, yeah.
yeah, I mean, some towns, Epsom, a few years ago, had a huge fire in there, Fort Mountain over there, and they didn't have enough money in the town budget, they had to go to school budget. And take money just to pay the bill they had.
Right.
The town of Stoddard, that had a major fire up there last year, it went over the threshold of, it's $1 million cost. So the feds, that's the first brush fire in the state of New Hampshire, the feds are gonna kick in and help pay that. Actually, we got money, at some point should be coming from that fire. But, you know, that was a huge fire, you know, huge resources, and, you know, the town started, have to pay $1 million. It bankrupt the town. But there is a provision in state law that would kick in and help the community out, if they get into that kind of a jam, because they won't let you, you know, bankrupt your town to repair for brush fire. But anyway, so that line item.
Yep.
Depends on brush fires, we've been pretty close to it every year. Training, this year, we're gonna hire a company to come in, 6 months out of the year. He'd either do it, he does most of our surrounding towns, and he does those monthly. We opted to do, every other month. He comes in, and the problem we have right now is to recertify our people as EMTs, the National Registry requires you to change the system. You need to have so many points, credits of a national, program. You gotta have so many state points, and you gotta have so many local. So in the end of a 2-year cycle, a person can recertify as an EMT. We can't provide those national points. I mean, we can't, you have to have at least one medical training a month, and you have to have a program that covers one of those 3. So, we're gonna try to do our local and state ones on the month he doesn't come. And like I said, he does all the surrounding towns, including Bedford, Wyndham, Pelham. So, say we did miss a class, someone missed a class in our town, they could go to another town and pick that up. So, unfortunately, it's just part of doing business today, training, so I opted to do, you know, 6 months out of the year instead of doing a full, year. He charges $300 a month to do his training. And, it's a good program, we've had them twice, you've probably seen the bill came through, we tried them out. We had them just last month, we had them this month, and we had them 2 months ago. And he comes in, he knows the federal guidelines, he knows what he has to cover. He covers just the classes that we have to have. He knows how many hours you have, and it's just the way we have to go, unfortunately. I didn't reduce, even though I didn't use all the money last year, I've had a couple people this year approach me about taking an advanced EMT class, which can run around $1,500, and one person's interested in EMT class, that's $1,200. And how that works is, when EMT classes were cheap, they started out on the cheap $200, they went to $400, they went to $600, they went to $800, they're at $1,200 right now, taking EMT class. The town, back when I first took over, I was paying up front for those, but what's happening, people.
Which line are we on now, chief?
So
Training,
Okay.
People weren't, finishing the class,
Yeah,
and the town was eating the money. $200 wasn't bad, when it got to $600, $800, $1,200. So, what I do now is have the people pay up front out of their own pocket. You go to the class, you pass, you come to me, all certified, ready to go. We'll get you state ambulance so you can work in the ambulance, we reimburse them. And you make an agreement, you at least stay on fire department for a couple of years.
so it's an incentive.
People were passing, and then they were moving out of town or taking a job somewhere else after we paid for their education. And actually, I only had one woman, reimburse the town. She went through the program, ended up having some personal issues and dropped out, and she actually reimbursed us for that class. But most people, you know, have town residents, they plan on sticking around and they wanna do it, so. So that's obviously gonna be an $1,800 increase. Mutual aid compact price has gone up $13.74, that's a fixed rate that, you know, I don't have any control over. It's all hinged on multiple, things in their budget. One of the biggest hits we have is the dispatcher fees. They're city employees, city of Concord employees. It's kind of a weird system how it works, but they're all under a union contract. We have no say in their salaries, even though we're paying for them. So, that's usually the biggest hit on the mutual aid compact side is wages and, overtime, training, there's a bunch of issues. We apply for a lot of grants in the mutual aid to pay for radios. We're replacing some radio equipment right now. We've got a grant for, we've been really fortunate to get grants to replace the equipment. You know, we have a full-time the coordinator for the mutual aid, he's a full-time position. We used to have a part-time secretary, we don't have her anymore, so it's basically his salary, dispatch salaries, you know, radio equipment. And we fund the Central New Hampshire hazmat team, which is like 58 towns, it's Lake Shore, Union, Concord area. So if we have a hazmat incident, they respond, that's part of belonging to the mutual aid, so. You know, there's no way we could ever go out and
Buy all the services.
get those services for that fee. You know, it's not even one person's salary, plus, you know, equipment. And so, really, the benefits you get out of it, weigh, you know, the cost of it, but unfortunately, there was an increase this year. We've been really good trying to keep the cost down, but there's some things we just had to replace, so that's an increase. Gas, we're kinda online with that. Actually, we've got a gas forestry truck now that used to be a diesel, and then the new command vehicle, is a lot harder on gas than the old car, so I could see why the police department, opted out of that. But, so I think we're on target with that. Who knows what the price of gas is gonna do this year.
Get
Diesel-
faster paint now on it.
Yeah, right. Diesel fuel, it's always, you know, we just try to put a figure in there, and it depends on how many fires you have, how much fuel you
Yeah.
use, cost of fuel.
Well, and fuel's gone down too, but it's not gonna stay down, I would
Right.
imagine, for long.
Office supplies, pretty levels.
Yep.
Supplies, you know, I gotta buy paper towels, cleaning supplies, you know, basic office supplies, paper, ink, all that good stuff. Phones, kind of a, you know, what the phone company charges, that's landline. We do have a fax machine line. Mobile, we just bought an iPad, for the ambulance. It's kind of the way you have to do business these days, do all the reporting on it. When we go on a medical call, we have to do our reports on it, we get times exported in from dispatch, it just is really the system we use today. Again, you know, we have to have a report into the state mandated 24 hours, unless it's a more serious call, and, you know, that seems like a lot of time, but, you know, when you get back from a call in the middle of the daytime, you gotta go back to your regular job, you can't sit down at a computer and make out a medical report, so this allows us to get most of that done on scene, en route to the hospital, actually, the person can sit in the back and almost get it completed when you get back to town, and, so there's a lot of benefits going, you know, it's a
Okay.
electronic world we're in, so we're hoping, our warrant article is to get a new monitor, defibrillator that has Bluetooth in it. Currently, our current one doesn't, so we have an extra device that we use to transmit, our EKGs to the hospital.
Preceding the patient.
Yeah, so, you know, we have to send that off ahead of time. So anyways, there is one device, can't think of the top off the top of my head. We're gonna eliminate, if we get a new monitor, because we don't have Bluetooth or anything in our old monitor, that we have a, what's the name of, what's that called?
The dongle?
No, the other thing, it's on a bill anyways, but, so that's, hopefully will be disappearing. I can't, on into that stuff, but,
Okay.
anyway, so it's possibility, we'll have one less charge, but with the, actually, Lean's been talking to Verizon over our bills from Verizon, what we get charged, so I think we'll be safe, 1,500 or 1,800.
Okay.
Equipment maintenance, that's kind of a level fee, you know, our apparatus is not getting any newer. We might have to do some tires this round. Luckily, this inspection cycle was fairly, good, but, you know, our newest truck's an '05, so, you know, things have to happen, break, so I like to keep that maintenance fee the same, it's been that same for many years. Dues, I dropped that $200, I belong to New Hampshire Fire Chiefs Association, our NFPA dues, which is a big benefit for us to belong to that, International Association of Fire Chiefs, that's what those dues cover, but, I didn't use it all this year, so, and I don't foresee it being, 700, so I dropped that down. Grader repair, went over a little bit this year, but last year, but we normally don't. We had to install this radio in this car and do some work, so that's why it was up. Pagers, actually I just bought 5 new pages, and they're a little bit more money than I budgeted, so I budgeted for 4. It'd be 17,95, so put 1,800 in there. The ones I just got were 2275.
So the actual shows 0, that's just because you're doing the money of it right now this month.
Yeah, these figures are way off right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I think it could be either what the account he gave us to bill it, charge it to, or a misentry on the accounting.
So the actuals aren't,
No,
oh, okay.
Yeah,
so don't go by that.
Okay, cause
What
we,
I have
we
left.
kinda go between the
Yeah.
actuals and
Yeah.
Some are pretty
Juggle money
close,
around.
but the bottom line is not even close to what I actually got out.
oh,
What do we have? Dues, services and fees, that, I was supposed to pay a $2,000 fee this year to switch our fire reporting. But somehow it got mixed up and I haven't paid that fee yet. We haven't gone to that system yet. It's a fire reporting, national fire reporting system, there's basically 2 out there. And so I never paid for it, I've never been billed for it, so I'm eventually going to be next year, so
So you're keeping it the
I'm
same.
just keeping it the same.
Yep.
Our protective gear, actually I just ordered, I wait to the end of the year and then we continuously have to replace gear. Actually I picked up 5 new members and 3, I didn't have gear for 3 of them, so I ordered 3 sets of gear, so that money will be gone.
Okay.
Subscriptions, that's kind of carry that over every year. Fire prevention, basically, that is, money's all spent at the elementary school. We purchased the NFPA's program for the year, whatever their theme is, and we buy all the material from them. There are a couple other vendors, sometimes I get pencils from and helmets and rulers, that kind of stuff to give to the kids, but basically all that money goes to the elementary school kids. I do the private daycare in town and a few other events we hand out at the station, or home day and stuff, but, you know, normally I don't have any left over. I did this year. Dry hydrant repairs, that covers, you know, we do some mowing, brush cutting around them. This year, Jeff, we had a broken, post around the one down on, Old Hopkinton Road. It was either got hit by a plow or something, so there was no protection around the, pipe. And that's a plastic pipe there, so obviously we don't want anybody to hit it. So Jeff was doing road work down, he approached me and said, how about putting a couple new, concrete posts in there to protect it? So I said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. So he did, and they were a little more expensive than, him and I thought they were gonna be. It came in like $800, so, that's an overcost. And this coming year though, there is some fence work that really needs to be done. I don't think we can hire a fence company to do it, but I raised that $250, hopefully we can buy some, chain link fence and some supplies, and either the highway department can do it, or we'll get somebody to do that, but, Jacqueline Drive fence, the tree came through it, knocked it down. I've gone down there and tried to straighten them up some, snow plowing sometimes damages them. The one at Jewett Road, that fence is really in bad shape down there.
You gotta educate me, dry hydrant. Are you talking about some of the ponds and stuff?
Yep, pond has a pipe,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, okay,
we pump
okay.
out of, that's a dry hydrant.
Okay, that's,
So the pipe, but part of the agreement was when we took those over from the developers over, put them in.
right,
Most of them were put in by the developers, they put a fence around it, which for
We have to-
security reasons and liability of the town.
but down the road we
But
have to
now it's
maintain-
ours.
Yes.
Yeah, so, some of them are in tough shape, you know,
Okay.
need some chain link ferry repair, so anyways, that's.
So you were happy with the new cistern they put up at the, new subdivision?
Yep, we've gone down, pumped it, worked it, and, I mean,
Okay,
it's a good, looks like a good product.
yeah, hopefully better than just having a pond there.
Yeah, there's pros and cons, obviously, there's maintenance to it, you have to obviously refill it once you use it.
Yep.
But, in the long run, towns that have had them for a long time, you know, we've had this one at the town hall over here since the 40s,
Okay,
and that thing has never failed, never cracked, that's concrete. Some towns have put them in, and they've cracked, broken, have leakage. But, you know, only other concrete cistern we have in town is down the Stinson development down there, which
Okay.
Lamontagne did that.
Yep.
You know, they opted to do that, that's, instead of you do a pond, a cistern, or sprinklers.
right,
Lamontagne does the cisterns, which is fine, but, you know, it's another whole thing, you know, you try, if you do a pond, you can't dig in wetlands, you know, with its water,
yep.
so, you know, it's a whole
Oh,
issue, but hopefully in the long run, the cistern, be less maintenance to the town. I mean, we
Okay.
still put, obviously, pipe needs to be
Protected.
maintained, and paint and protected, post and signage and those kinds of things can be damaged, but
okay,
so far we've had pretty good luck with them. Ambulance fee expenses, you know, running the ambulance is a very expensive operation. Some supplies we can get from the, hospital. When we go up there, we can exchange out, which saves us some money, but there are some products that, we have to buy on our own. We have to pay for our own oxygen. Some of the paramedic supplies that we have, we do have a medic, we have to purchase ourselves. You're gonna see a bill come through this week on, they're called Easy IOs. They're a needle that you actually, you drill a hole in a person's bone and insert this needle, get medication directly in the bone. And we used a couple of serious calls this year, so I had to replace them. And the company is similar to the EpiPen company. There's one company that bought out the rest of the companies, it's monopoly on these things, and they are crazy expensive. But you can only get them from one person, one company. So anyways, try to keep that the same. Actually, I think I overspent it this year, but, just because of some costs I didn't foresee. Paramedic intercept, that's just taking a chance on how many you're gonna have to call for. It's kind of a hit and miss type of operation. It's $550 for an intercept that we call for paramedic we either call Bow or Concord. It can go to Goffstown or Hopkins. And the way it works is, if you are en route to the hospital and you've called for a paramedic intercept, paramedic shows up, you stop, he gets in the back, treats the patient, that's a paramedic intercept. We owe them $550, because you can't double bill a patient to ambulance fees. Back in the day, you could. Dunbarton could charge, and
Take them halfway, then the other half.
then Concord could charge. So you'd have two ambulance services billing one patient. Well, the Fed said you can't do that anymore. So whoever does the transport gets the money. You can bill and get paid. So what's happened to us in quite a few calls in Dunbarton is that if the paramedic gets to the scene and then they transport in their ambulance, that's not an intercept. Even though we've called for a paramedic, because that ambulance did the transporting, and they can charge the full
Gotcha.
boat, and that covers their expenses.
Yep.
If we get charged $550 and we bill out, hopefully you maybe break even, if not, that cost comes from the town. So this year, I think I have another one.
You do
Other
all
than this.
that billing, chief?
The billing service does it for the town,
Yeah.
for that town. But what's happened is Medicare has dropped their rate on what they pay for ambulance services. Some insurance companies have a flat rate, we'll pay you, $500 even though the bill was $750. You're gonna get $500, and then there's a lot of towns that are very aggressive in ambulance billing. Town of Dunbarton isn't aggressive as, we could be, but, I don't like going after a resident in town, if we don't have to. If the person's insurance pays $500 and the bill's $750, some people go after that other $250. They send letters. We send a letter if we haven't received payment, and then it gets dropped. We get a notice of people that haven't paid. What do you wanna do with them? Some towns, actually, one of these towns, Capital Area, they're thinking of hiring a secretary, full-time secretary, just to do billing.
And they're a town our size?
They're about 4,000 people, I think, and they're gonna hire someone just to do the ambulance billing, cause they think they can get more than what they get through the billing company. But to me, there are people, I don't wanna sound biased, but, a guy comes from Massachusetts, crashes his ATV down to the park, we go down there, have to drag the guy out, take him to the hospital, and we don't get a dime from the guy. We don't have the proper insurance information from him, we don't have his address. If we do have that information, and the guy's refusing to pay, to me, we should go after that person. He's got no connection to Dunbarton, he might have insurance, he just doesn't wanna pay us. It's worth, sending the letters to that person, try to get some money out of them. Same thing, accident, patients, out-of-towners, whatever, I don't have a problem sending those people a letter, requesting some money, but, our money for ambulance goes into our revolving ambulance fund. We use it basically to buy ambulance equipment, fire equipment, and replace the ambulance. A lot of these towns, they fund their firefighters with that money, some of these towns, the Bedfords, the Concords, they generate a lot of money through ambulance billing, and they use it for salaries, so they're more aggressive to go after, make sure they get every penny you can get. But, like I said, what's happening in the insurance world, and even with federal money, Medicare, they're paying less and less and less, for an ambulance run.
Yeah.
And you have to itemize it. If you use auction, it's an extra fee. If you use a cardiac monitor, it's an extra fee. So all these towns make sure they do all that. you know, so
Yeah.
the bill, you know, they get more money,
Yeah.
you know, it's a way to raise income, I guess, but, you know, we don't have that enough calls to really, I think, justify,
Secretary to go after that.
yeah, really, you know, we don't have the personnel, our billing service, you know, we hire billing service, we had one through Concord, they went out of business, so we use, one down in Massachusetts. And they do a fine job, I mean, they take a percentage of what they raise, but, it's still very reasonable, so,
So I see you're going up from basically 88K to about 93K.
yeah, and the,
$5,000.
and the big changes obviously are is the training, I mean, that 1,500 in the pay is negotiable, I mean, we can't do anything with a compact fee. And, you know, a couple minor reductions and a couple minor increases, but, you know, nothing really,
Yeah, I don't see much that we can
It was a-
really
we can
adjust on
really
that.
do.
John, that was a good presentation, I appreciate it.
The other thing is, I applied for a forestry grant a month or so ago, and we were awarded that through a federal program that, it's a federal forestry grant that assists towns that are smaller than 5,000 population. So we obviously fall into that. So I was awarded that grant, and it's $2,700 grant, plus a 50-50 split, so we're gonna have to pay $1,350.
Where's it go to?
Has to go to buy forestry equipment,
Oh, for firefighting,
so
yeah.
hose and hand tools. So, but you know, I'm gonna take that out of my line item for protective equipment,
Mhm.
so that will come out of that line, so it won't be an increase in that, even though you know, we're
So
obligated.
basically, these actuals on here, we shouldn't refer to them
Nope.
too much.
No, I'll
Okay.
explain it as we go along too.
You'll get sticker shock.
These are the two you want.
Now, John, can you tell me, being the first year on the board for myself, how much has the fire department had a steady, like, $3,000 or $5,000 increase per year? Has it been flat for a bunch of years? Just-
Yep,
So you've been
the
flat
only
for a bunch
increase
of years?
we've increased in the last 3 or 4 years is our mutual aid cost has gone up every year.
Mhm.
And whatever the town decided to pay their employees per percentage for pay,
Yeah, that
we
increase,
put it into that
yeah,
stipend line. So that's why that increased, that was $10,000 originally, and some people were under the impression it was never gonna move, but some of the other boards were in favor of pushing that up, and then, like I said, it increased just by the percentage that the town employees get for raises.
mhm.
We calculated that into that fee, and that's how that has grown. We haven't put a flat fee into that, but every other line item, actually, I haven't moved the line item other than, the mobile phone line for the last 3 or 4 years. Been steady, but again, you know, some of those we just can't,
And you're gonna have your regular warrant articles that you normally,
yeah, asking for money for the
Yeah.
engine, and then for that monitor defibrillator. But, I mean, if you subtract that 27,688 fee out of my budget, I mean, we're operating under $65,000. I mean, that's what we really have for operating money. I
Right.
mean, that fee
the other fee is
is just
gone.
gone. I mean, so we operate, you know, at $65,000, which wasn't even salary of any
For
one
one
person in any other town,
Right,
so.
so,
Or any other department for that
Yeah.
matter, pretty much, or a
Right.
full-time employee.
Yeah, so,
it's a,
I mean,
it's a trifecta.
Right.
you know, we try to keep it, you know, without increasing any areas as much as we can, but, you know, some are out of our control, obviously. But the ones that we can try to control, you know, like, you know, I could buy hose and do a lot of expenditures that, you know, we buy it, like I ordered a piece this year, usually more and more, but, and then the grant we got for breathing apparatus, part of that grant was, well, we got all the breathing apparatus, but the next step is getting installed in the engines. Well, our brackets that we currently have, some need to be adjusted, some can't be adjusted. Our engine one, they were built at the factory and they're non-adjustable, so they're gonna have to be replaced. So I've taken money out of my budget for that, but we wanna go to a different bracket in our engine two, everybody's seated, you put your packs on. The system we have now is not very good, it's too many belts and whistles and cords you gotta pull, so we're going to a new bracket. But I don't have enough money in my budget to buy 5 of them, I could only afford to buy 3 of them. So the Firefighters Association is gonna purchase 2 of them. So we'll have the engine, all 5 will be replaced in the engine, so they're gonna donate. They're around $560 a piece for those brackets.
Wow.
And then the brackets that we're taking out of this truck, we're gonna be able to move over to the other truck that needed the new brackets. So that's the stage we're at those breathing apparatus. We've got them all, they've been delivered, we've trained on them, they're sitting in the station. But part of the grant was that they install them in the truck and take the old ones away, get rid of them. So that's we're at with that stage, but I will be taking the money out of, this year's budget for those 3 brackets.
Okay.
But in the end, we're gonna end up with 5, so.
John, thank you.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
The warrant for the engine, what, do you have a dollar amount in mind?
Same as last year's, 40,000.
40? And then this other one that you're thinking of, the monitor with Bluetooth?
Yep.
Do you have any numbers for that yet?
I do have,
Approximately, just so I can bug you for it?
I'll have to tell you tomorrow. I've got to quote it.
Okay,
Yeah, it's my
I'll bug you
computer.
for it then, okay. Alright, that's all I have.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, Merry Christmas.
Oh, one more, emergency management, it's not in part of this, it's on another page. It's,
Yep, we carry $1,000 every year with the intention if we did open the shelter, we have to buy food supplies, something like that. In the past, I used to buy portable radio with it, but portable radios are a lot more than $1,000. So what we've done the last year was we used that money to pay for the generator maintenance. Actually, he was there today. Power's generator came today and serviced the school generator and the fire station generator. Did a major on both of them, once oil change, filters, checked them out, ran them, so we'll be getting a bill for that, so
okay,
feel free to take it out of that. Budget.
Thank you.
But
Thanks.
yeah, I keep it the same. Again, if we ever did have to open the shelter and buy some supplies, probably nothing.
Costs a lot more than that, yeah. All right, thanks, John.
You okay? Yeah.
Okay,
Who we up now?
Woody, we can finish the transfer station, and then we go right into Stark Bridge.
If you want, you can go ahead, I'm gonna be, if you want, get the echo, we're gonna need.
Sure.
Okay. Feedback special, so, I gotta go place I'm going, so.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna go right to Stark Bridge then.
it's some sheet corn with the lines on it like this.
Yeah, I'm looking actually for the actual, agenda, I misplaced it.
Here you go. Look at mine.
Just that one page, no, we got Mike Hanson.
And we have the email,
Email and this.
This,
No? Look for the one with the highlighted lines. And you'll see it right there. I'm gonna have to start doing your packet for you.
I tried to put it in order, but just towards the end there.
I'm just picking on you.
obviously.
It always
What's
helps
on
when
my
you're
packet?
looking for something, right?
It's
You keep going, I'll let you know when I see it.
across the top,
It's
it
not
says
no
Stark
stop free,
Bridge.
keep going
Oh,
down.
it says Stark Bridge, okay.
It's handwritten,
You
an
gotta go
email.
deeper. Keep going, I'll tell you when it comes out.
There's your
There's
date.
my, that one back. Yeah, now this back.
Yeah.
Stark Bridge?
Yes, that's the one.
Yep. Okay. Let's get this show on the road on the Stark Bridge.
Looks like this here, keep going.
Oh, right there, I
Yep.
got the memo, but I didn't have that.
Okay.
I'll let you follow along.
As we discussed last week, we had the four bids, And one was outstanding, because, the thing is, we wanted to compare apples and apples, and Mr. Hanson's, bid did not give us had an open-ended bid for gravel, had an open-ended, had a 4-month window for construction, and we wanted to get get that clarified, and we did, and, as far as the gravel, I think he put a $12,678 bid on the gravel for the email, not bid, but the additional cost. And he's gonna start date in the second week of January, and again, that would be weather permitting, of course. And the contract gave him a 4-month window to complete, but I don't know if it's gonna take that long but I think it makes his bid still very competitive with the remaining of the 3 other bids, as you all may recall.
So what's his total bid price?
196,678.
It's right here.
Oh, okay. Right here. Let's see it.
I know you have one in there, but packets just,
You didn't get one either?
I don't see it.
oh yeah, they're in their packets. I'll give you another one. It's the one with the lines.
He took it.
I got mine, Lean.
I had the one with the
Dave
pieces,
gave-
I have this one, it says Tuck Bridge.
Okay, I have extra.
Oh, Lean, you know, this is the one you gave us on the way out.
So,
that right?
so there's a reason. Okay,
Maybe.
so get back to 3, so we have a low bid, we have a very high bid, and 2 in the middle. And the good news is,
All three,
Right.
actually, yeah.
yeah. Thing is, I had concern about a low bid, about quality and all that kind of stuff, but, the road agent, on behalf of Dunbarton, did, reviews of references, and could you share what you found out?
Yeah, I called several different agencies.
One
was-
reference is on his list, right?
Yeah, on his list, and one of them wasn't on there, but I got wind of a project that he done over in the town of Durham. I called there and talked to the town engineer, had happened to be a gal, and, she had no problems with him whatsoever. I mean, excellent review and all that. I did tell her where we were at with it, just to kinda feel her out with it and see what her recommendation would be. Well, over in Durham, they have a little thing that they do. Typically, they throw out the highest and the lowest bid and then go in the middle. And I told her, I said, well, we're a pretty small town and we're kinda behind the 8 ball on the budget right out of the gate. So that was a pretty attractive price to us, so I wanted some feedback, good, bad, or whatever, and she said, no problem. Scheduling, everything else, understand the scope of work and all that was fine. I talked to another engineering firm, which he had put on his list of references from CLD, Jamie French. She had nothing but positive things to say about the guy. You know, timeliness was not a problem. There was a delay in a project he was involved in, it was not his fault, it was they bought a similar type situation, a precast concrete structure through Concrete Systems out of Hudson, and there was some issue with having that made and delivered in a timely fashion. We didn't get into what it was, but she says his part of it, the job, no problem whatsoever. I talked with the road agent over in Francistown, because it seemed like he'd done quite a bit of work over in Francistown. This guy absolutely loves him, you know, he thinks he's a great fit. And everybody's had positive things to say about it. I stopped after that, I called, and there was another engineering firm I called to, and nobody has anything negative to say about him timely. And I figure, people are they don't always forthcoming with negative stuff. They either say something positive or they don't say anything. So I thought they were all pretty legitimate. Go ahead.
It is a substantial savings.
Yeah, that's what I thought, like I explained to the gal.
And, what I felt comfortable with, I'm looking at the cost of gravel that he had put in there. He could have padded that figure, still come in underneath and still padded that figure and looked very attractive.
Seemed to be
Jeff,
pretty
does
good.
that gravel look like a very small amount to you for the amount of work there? It didn't look that,
Well, it's just,
Doesn't look that
it's basically the backfill on the inside of the structure,
Yeah.
on the brook side, and the rock that needs to go. So it's not a huge amount of it.
and you think that, amount's sufficient to cover
Yeah.
that?
No, I do, I didn't wanna do an open-ended thing, I wanted him to quantify it, and I explained that to him in great depth, that we needed it quantified, we didn't, we don't want extras, we don't want
Yeah,
issues that way. And I did actually talk to him on the phone at great length today, and I told him, I said, are you comfortable with being able to do this job with this. And he's done the same type of projects. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing as
He's
far
done
as
with
I
the depth, he's put the steel in, had
Yeah.
companies come in to do all that part of it.
Yes, yeah. And I guess he didn't tell me any of this, but I did through another individual. I guess he had a larger company, and because if you look on the list, he had a long list of DOT projects he did starting back in 1999, and significant projects, $1 million plus jobs. And I was thinking, all right, so what's this catch here? And I guess he was actually a larger company, and he's scaled back now. He still does it, but he kind of found a little better niche. And one of his things he does, he actually puts wooden bridges in. But, this is another option to get work installing these. I tried to get him down, on the winter conditions, everything. He's got a good concept of what the job's gonna take.
Now, I'm only going off memory, but I think part of his bid, the cheaper portion, was putting that steel into retain.
Yep.
And he was comfortable with the company he had bid that with?
I'm not sure, but I think he may do that himself. I think he may have the stuff to do it for the
Okay.
discussion with it. I didn't get into great depth with it all, but that's what he told me.
I was just hoping not to get into another situation where we
Oh, no, I don't want to either.
started again and it, we
I
find
mean-
something else out on the 11th hour.
Exactly.
Other than that, you felt comfortable?
Well, there was only one issue, and it was rightfully so, that when we talked about, is with the guardrail system, because it wasn't completely spelled out on the plan, which was correct. The engineer that did the sizing of the structure and all that, he just kinda drew some guardrail on there. Michie Corporation spec'd out, spelled out an anchor system that accepts a certain kind of state DOT guardrail. So his question was, how much guardrail are we gonna have, how much this and that? And I told myself I couldn't really give him the exact answer, and I understood what he was getting at. So he said, that's the only gray area he has. And I kinda told him we could probably work that out. We may have to be involved with that a little more, cause we're gonna actually come up with some distances and all that. The
So is the
structure,
guardrail figured in the project at this point?
well, I couldn't, some amount, but not really.
But is Mitchie providing it or are we?
No, we would have to provide it. They don't provide that. The precast thing has a template that's poured into it that accepts a guardrail post that's state approved.
And so we have no pricing for that at all at this point?
No, not really. That was the only thing. So that's a gray area.
That would've been great for all
Well,
companies.
the Daniels Corporation, they had put a number to some guardrail. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Which one is that, Jeff?
That was, I think, the $246,000. I mean, they do this type of work all the time. I mean, bridges from, precast, heavy bridges to installation of these and everything else.
But most likely the guardrail's not gonna be $50,000.
No, I tried to reach out to a guardrail company, CWS, and get a feel for it. Regular standard guardrail that's driven in the ground is $25 a foot, because that's gonna be considered a small quantity of that job. So, if it was
Oh, yeah, right there.
200 feet, it's $5,000.
Okay.
The only gray area is that it's on the bridge. And, without a plan, without this, I can't really give you a real number and all that. So that's a little bit of a gray area, and that's why Hanson is a little gray area.
But it is,
35,000.
Yeah, so he's still at 231,678 if you figure it.
Yeah. So I knew I knew Daniels had carried a number for it. I didn't notice anybody else carrying it. Because Daniels actually gave a pretty good breakdown of it.
Yeah, they use their own.
So, hold on just a second, Daniels was 31,
Just for the guardrail portion of it.
Daniels was 35.
Yeah, so it makes it 231,678
If you
on
add
this
that,
price.
If it ended up being that much.
Oh.
And I don't know exactly what Daniels spec'd out, because again, it's not clear on the plan. So I mean, if we just wanna tie it up, everything in a bow, go like this and say, have at it.
This one,
So if you
35
took
as
the,
well.
if you took,
Okay, so there's another one,
35.
Cold River,
Yep,
It was
backfill,
35.
guardrail, gravel, roadway, site restoration, 35 grand.
Well,
So it's a
so
little
this,
bit
it's
more.
not, it's not
Can I
really just a
see
guardrail.
them bids again?
Yeah,
Yep,
sure.
absolutely.
They're talking, see this, again, and we're not talking just guardrail, they're talking
Right.
putting the gravel down, the grade, the
Yeah, so they're
match the
including,
road
yeah.
existing.
So it's gonna be under 35.
Yeah. You know, I'm sorry I couldn't get a better feel for that, but I just couldn't, I thought by calling the
This is-
guardrail company up, I could get a little more definite answer.
So they have it included in their bid.
Yeah,
So what
well,
we really need to do is look at backing out.
well, I'm sure he's got some kind of number in there for it, but it was a gray area, he said, on what we were gonna need for guardrail.
You know, but realistically, what you have to do is take these other total numbers and back the guardrail portion out
Yeah.
to get it equal to Hanson's to.
But I
look at
don't think
apples
there's
for
only one of them that has broken out just as guardrail, right?
apples. One is guardrail, but the other one
This one.
has it as gravel roadway site
Yeah.
This one has it
restoration.
So like I said,
But just for our due diligence, if we do those with those companies, just to get us all apples for
yeah,
apples.
yeah, no, I understand.
We still should be cheaper, but I think we should go through that process.
Yeah, I
The
understand what you're saying.
guardrail on this one's 30,950,
Yeah, and then
just
this,
for the guardrail.
Right, so it's,
So
now,
they're in there.
which one do you have
$30,000.
bottom on?
Which one, what's the name of that company?
This one is Cold River.
So that's 30,950.
okay, and then.
And this one here is Daniels and it's 35,000 even.
It's actually on
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
That's the only glitch to this thing.
No, but that explains why his bid is probably a little bit lower too.
And
Well, it does,
advanced
it does.
paving is, setting up bridge, waterproofing, backfill, guardrail, final cleanup, 48,606.
Can you read those to me again?
It includes setting of bridge, waterproofing, backfill, grade road. Oh, wait a minute, I guess that's not the, let's see here, piping. It says grade road, not guardrail, so there is no guardrail on this one.
Okay, so none there. We have 30,000 how about New England infrastructures? Did they have it on that bid?
Jason
Two
Bruce on
85.
that Cold River.
This one is advanced paving,
Yeah, he has the,
oh, right here. And the
I
other
got
one.
this right here, it's right here, 35,000. That includes a little bit of everything.
yeah, so it's not 35, but give them the benefit of the doubt, we'll just put down 35 and see.
Yeah, I
how
would.
it-
Yep.
So now if we do the math backwards, just to see.
He's looking at them.
218 for Cold River. Exactly.
48,950.
Two. 50. 100. Okay.
So, your numbers are 218, okay,
250, 100. Next one.
240K, although I think Advance might have something in there that he just didn't list it. And then 285,
250, 100.
you said 250, 100?
Yeah, just 285, 100 minus 35K.
Yeah.
And then the last one, did you do Daniels yet?
No, I didn't.
Okay, it's,
246, 400 minus 35.
211, 400.
What did you come up?
211, 400
So if we took his,
for the Daniels.
if we took his,
Right.
and we took 196, 678.
Yep.
And we know that we have one at 35K for just guardrail and one at 30,950. And we added
Mm-hmm.
30,950, even the cheaper one.
Okay. I did 35, but it's good still.
I did 35 just to be on the safe side.
Yep,
Right.
so we're at 231, and he's still,
We're at 227 on his then, right?
yeah, if you take 30, yeah,
So you're at 227, 628, if I do the 30,000,
okay.
950, giving them the benefit of the doubt. We don't really know if advanced, cause they didn't spell it out if they included it or not. They did not, you think?
No, I think they probably did, but they
I
didn't
think
say,
they-
they didn't say it.
I think they might have, cause their number's so close to the
Yes.
other three.
That's why I,
So if you look at this number, they're no longer the low number. Okay? Those circle amounts are the correct number.
No, you compare it, that's where you compare it to, because you just subtracted out the,
Yeah, and you have to add it in here, cause he has no guardrail.
no, but you gotta, if you add it in, you gotta compare this number to these numbers.
yeah, we gotta, yeah, I would go with assuming that Hanson has no number, even though
You see what I'm saying?
he alluded to guardrail, but he wasn't sure exactly.
To this number here. That's without guardrails,
Oh, yeah.
without guardrails. So he's really, he's still saving about $20,000 for the town.
It's either you subtract it from all of
Yeah.
them, Dave, or you add them to all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did that, and I looked at the wrong column.
so you subtract and
Teamwork,
add it
teamwork.
back in, and then divide it by 2.
All right,
So he's still a little bit cheaper.
yeah, a good 20, it looks like almost
10 grand.
10 grand, yeah, which is,
In fact, I'd go even one further and say that even if he hit you with 40,000, you're still coming in under.
And,
Not that he would hit that number, but
yeah,
it's just that you'd
Well,
still come in
40,000
under.
makes him almost even.
Almost, but not quite, he's still a low bidder. But I don't think it would get that high, I'm just saying that even if,
yeah, I mean,
whatever,
he
you know.
didn't really say too much about it until I really pushed it. Are you 100% comfortable with this number? They told me, so we don't want extras, we don't want surprises.
right.
Have you included everything you can to do the job? And he said, well, the only thing I got a gray area is with the guardrail, cause he said it doesn't really spell it out. And I said, yeah, you're right, I know exactly what you're talking about. The engineer drew a line, it shows guardrail, and he says it kinda goes a little here, over there. I said, but on the Mitchie Bridge, it specs out a pocket or a template or a piece, it's cast into it actually, that will accept a DOT T101 guardrail.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a slide over bolt down.
Bolts onto it,
Yeah,
with it's a special bracket. Instead of driving in the ground, it bolts to it.
okay.
So there are some specs for it, it's not 100% speckless, but I could,
He just needs to firm that up, so we
Yeah.
can't have it open-ended again.
Jeff, did you talk with him about, overall time, cause he had the largest overall time?
yeah, well, it does say 4 months in the bid sheet, however, and he just said, well, I explained to him where it was, flood control, and he understands all that. And I said, you know, when it gets to be the springtime, they, you know, could have a water issue, and we don't want our thing to wash away. And, you know, he was like, you know, we'll get it started, and he said, depends on the weather, exactly how long it has to take. It was an honest answer, you know, there would be weather delays, but he couldn't see any big delay.
Well, he could start earlier than we originally thought too, so that's good.
Yeah, but reading the bids, and I mean, I'm not, I had no relationship with the Daniels Company other than the fact that I know they do a lot of these. They do a lot of bridges and everything else, and if you analyze the timing of these bids, they said they would start in the middle of February. Well, the middle of February, the weather starts to get better. You still got winter, but you're not in the dead of winter, you're starting to go the other way. The days get a little longer, you know, you can get better weather. So, I mean, he said they had a project they were finishing up, that would be the earliest they could start it. You know, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Cause he was, that was his thing. But they are, we end up, we say they're about $20,000 more.
Let's take it back to the board now, what do you, John, what do you think? Do we wanna make a decision?
I think we've gotta make some kind of.
Yeah, you're getting close to the end of the year,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have a hard time encumbering his money, not knowing what we're encumbering it for, cause we don't have a contract.
Mhm.
So,
After listening to Jeff's explanation of this company, I was very leery like Mike was, but after listening to his discussion, and I can see as a company sometimes get older, you downsize it when you're in your semi-retirement type of years maybe, or whatever, so I can
Yeah, I would
understand
say
that.
he's my age.
And I like the fact that he's
Oh.
done,
Yeah.
I like the fact that he's done larger work to see.
Not old as you.
So, I don't have a problem with using him now, listening to Jeff's
I think
research with the people.
any issue we have, I'm very confident, and from talking to the road agent in Francistown, we can work it out. You know, I don't think there's gonna be any problem. The engineering firms that worked with him, that oversaw the projects, no, any problem. I mean, he had stellar references.
Okay,
See, I can understand the references you got from the engineers,
Yeah.
more so than the references you got from the owner.
Exactly, yeah, I understand.
so this is the first half, we have to make a decision if we're gonna accept that, then we gotta talk about, the second part of this discussion is gonna be a little bit on the funding. So, well, we can make an acceptance to accept the A contract, and we can do that, get a motion on the table, we can do that. And then we got, I wanna move the discussion to a little bit on the funding side.
I think because he laid it out in stages,
Can I have his, proposal then? And I'll start a motion.
Okay. Give me that proposal for him.
yeah.
Wanna sleep?
Yeah, I go home, sleep in my chair, watch football.
No, I think that, you know, as we stated here before, just in some open discussion, we're already in a position that we have to spend additional money on it, so I don't think at this point we should spend more than we need to, so. That's how I'm gonna follow through with the motion, especially after the research that our road agent has done. So. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the proposal from Michael Hanson Construction Ltd. of New London, for the construction, removal, and installation of the bridge over Stark Brook. And I would like to make the total 196,678, including the gravel and stone needed to do the job in full. Anybody have anything else you think we need to add into it?
I would like to draft up the signature page that specifies all the numbers
Yeah,
and have you sign it and have him sign it.
yeah. And I wanted to make sure that we include the retainage that's in the contract as well.
So you're not gonna put in any number for the guardrail?
No, only because it's an unknown,
Right.
so I don't wanna do that and encumber anything on that for now. I'd like to let Jeff work that portion of it out with him.
Yeah.
It sounds like he has put a number in there,
Yes.
although it's not a specified number,
No, and
so.
he hit the nail on the head, I mean, like he said, it doesn't, there's nothing called out, so he says it's,
So you just gotta tell them what you want.
we gotta, and I gotta get together with the engineer.
It sounds like he has some
Costello.
money in there, Bob, and that's why I don't wanna.
Yeah,
No, I-
exactly, you know, I,
You know,
That's
you
why
might
I
have
wanna
a
make
portion
sure
in
it's
there,
all
yeah.
Already dedicated towards it.
When you said the number, just.
I didn't ask him what he carried in there, I just told him, yeah, I get it, he said, if you can give me a plan that shows exactly what it is, he said, we can quantify that better, but he said, like, it's a gray area, and then he told me why, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, I understand now.
I just
It
wanted
never
to,
dawned on me before.
I wanted to make sure that you weren't, the 196 wasn't inclusive of everything.
That's right.
Because then he'll come back and say, hey, you know, I'm not gonna give you the guardrail, and then, you know, you might have another meeting, and we're right near the end of the month, you know?
Okay, I just wanna make a point of order here. Should we be discussing this, can this be edited out, this section here, because this is gonna, this discussion should not be allowed to be given to this contractor.
Yeah.
I really think we got a problem here,
Well, I can have it posted later.
until this contract's signed.
Which is how long from now?
Well, I'm just concerned that, I don't want him to come back, because we're talking about, he may already have some money encumbered in his bid for the guardrails.
I
That's
mean,
what we're
I
worried
can
about.
post it later,
Okay.
as long as it's not like a month later.
No, I'm talking like a week or two, by the end of the
Yeah,
year.
I can post it, I'll just have a
We'd like to get a
disclaimer
contract
saying
signed by
that
the end
it's
of the
gonna
year with
be,
you.
you
Could.
know, due to the.
Sensitivity of the contracting issue.
Well, no, I'm not even gonna mention the contract.
Well, the thing is, I just don't want, no, the thing is, we just gotta get a price for that would include, after you just talk to engineering, the
Yeah.
guardrail in there.
Yeah.
And be prepared for that cost.
Yeah.
And Jeff, look at the linear footage you might need, so he'll have an accurate.
Yeah, no, we gotta pin that down.
So if
And
you
I-
pin that
I
down.
couldn't do it on the phone today when I was talking to him, or,
Right,
or
and
the
I would like
guardrail
to,
company.
and I would like to keep that separate from
Yeah.
this bid, so it doesn't confuse it or complicate it.
yeah.
And-
And
and
worst case
we're
scenario,
gonna
we
make-
have to take that over ourselves.
Right, and we're gonna make the dumb assumption that some of the money includes some of that.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, I agree with what Bob said here. Okay, thank you, if you just do that, that'd be
Yeah, I'll
great.
hold off until I get word from you guys.
Great.
So do I have a second on the motion?
Second,
Any further discussion on this?
No, I think we'll wait for the rest of the financial discussion till the end of our meeting, maybe.
Okay,
You know, take care of Woody and then we'll do the rest of it, because I don't think that,
no, Woody's been waiting long enough.
Yeah.
He's got places to go to,
I
he
think
said.
we're good with that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Everybody's for the motion?
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
so it's safe for me to call
Call
him
him.
tomorrow and say, hey, listen, you're a lucky guy.
And we need him, you know, if he's not on vacation in Jamaica somewhere, is come in and get the contract signed with you and Lane.
Yeah.
And get that all ironed out, so we'll have it for the end of the year. We can
Yeah.
encumber the proper amounts of money.
Yeah, so he's gotta come in next week, in other words, and so we can get the money, even tomorrow if you wanted to.
Yeah, I have no idea what his schedule is.
I know, but the thing is,
He answered his phone
we're-
when I called
I
him.
think that contract,
Are you off next week?
no,
So we're able to do it in the middle of the week next
Yeah.
week? Okay.
yeah,
okay,
I'm here
I'll-
for
yeah,
3 weeks.
I'm assuming he's around.
oh
I
yeah,
don't think he's going away. It didn't sound like he was.
All right, so that'll be good, Jeff, that we can iron that out, and then.
Yeah.
We'll have Lane give you a call, Leo? Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
This is, we could've went non-public here, but it's okay at this
Yeah,
point.
should we
He didn't take advantage
send
of it on the
just
gravel.
a letter
No, it was
Okay.
fair.
to
That's
the
fine.
other,
You know, he could have listened.
to the other
That's what I was
bidders?
saying, the statement I
He
was
didn't take
saying.
advantage of
No,
it.
I
Just
was very-
thinking,
I would've-
it's a way of
You want,
keeping people in the
Add that
loop,
contract.
at least when things come up.
He didn't take advantage of this,
no,
so.
no, he didn't.
Okay. All right, you're all set, sir? Just-
I'm all set, if you're all set.
Yes,
with me.
coordinate with Lean next week and give the good news tomorrow.
Yep, I'll see what his schedule is,
Yeah.
how quick he can get it.
Right, well, you gotta talk with the engineer and just
Yeah.
on the, what you wanna put in.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
He could be there.
Now, we're gonna talk financing in a little bit, if you wanna be around for that.
Yeah, I'll
We
stay.
just remember, we're just gonna take it out of your budget.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand, hold it.
That'll get you to smile.
Yeah, I.
What it is,
And
what
again,
it is. And again, if you don't wanna stay,
Woody.
well, you don't have to either,
You-
because
You're up.
we kinda know where the fund comes
No, I get some good news.
from.
Yeah,
I'll stay. I'm interested.
I'm good news.
You gonna really check off the balance? Not that good?
Okay, Woody's budget's here.
Yes.
What's that one look like, Mike? Lee, we're at the end of those, but can we get some bold on the time pieces?
What? When we get to the end?
I said, we're almost at the end of these, but
Yeah, like this is gonna be a pretty bold, that's what your whole budget's gonna
that's what, no, I'm looking at, just the heading on this one. We have a worksheet from Woody?
Yes,
Donate stuff? Where is it?
solid waste
Oh, I got it
disposal.
right here, so this is what it looks like.
I have to highlight everything.
Yeah,
Did you get it on the way out, or did she?
No, you got it in your budget.
Okay,
It's got
I have it,
solid
see what it
waste
looks like?
disposal.
I have it. Okay, you've seen the routine, we're looking for the outliers mainly as we go forward.
So just running through briefly here, full-time has the 2% in it,
Okay,
part-timers, 2%,
yep,
and that's figured on the current staffing, 2 guys at 32, 1 at 24, 1 at 16,
okay,
no overtime. We have $1 there just to keep that line there. Equipment rental, that went up. One, as the cost of the mower is going up. And then we
What
put
do you mow down there, may I ask?
all the brush
That's around.
around the whole facility. You do it twice a year, or whatever.
I use the same machine, by the way, the same identical machine.
Yeah. And then I put a little extra in there for to rent a hammer drill.
Okay.
That's one of the.
You're on the equipment rental,
Yes.
right?
And the hammer drills to, one of the things that the NRA talked about when they came out was turning two of those balers. So we gotta drill holes in the cement to do that. So, and potentials of doing that, at that money there to do it. The training, that's up a little bit for, so I can go to the conference this year that I haven't gone to in a while. And plus we send, the head custodian, down from the school, so he can be involved with the program and keep the program going on at the school. Supplies went up 300, I need to buy some, blocking. I use underneath the dumpsters to keep them picked up, so it keeps the water running out of them.
What kind of blocking is that?
Just gonna be some, like 8x8s. Keeps the water from setting in them. The ones I got now is pretty well busted apart. Equipment maintenance is the biggest jump of them all. In that one line there, there's money for tires for that skid steer. That is roughly around $4,000 for those tires. They're a flat proof tire. The original set's been on there for, give or take, 2,500 hours. The machine has almost 3,000 hours on it. We did have a set that I acquired, that we ran for a little while. They were completely bald.
Well, there's more than that in there, right?
What's that?
Well, if you deduct the 4,000 for tires,
Well, there's
it's still a
more.
huge amount of money.
Yeah, there's more. I have one baler that's in dire need of some repair. I had a welder take a look at it. And it's actually pushing, there's a big plate on top and it's actually pushing through the plate. That's gonna be an extensive job. He's gonna have to actually take that plate out. I don't think he's gonna be able to do it from inside. He and I kinda talked about it a little bit. That's gonna be an expensive fix. There's some rust repairs on, not on the cab of the truck, but on the back of the truck. We're gonna need to take care of some of the supports that hold the fenders up. The rear bumper, not the ICC bumper, but the regular bumper where the lights are is rotting out. We'll have to do something with that. Metalwork's expensive, so
Is that on the Mac you're
that's
talking
on
about?
the Mac, yeah.
Okay.
And whatever other maintenance comes along, I'm sure, I'm thinking that pickup, depending on what you guys wanna do with that pickup, probably gonna have to do a brake job on it. We're gonna have to replace the seat in it, the driver's seat's down to the steel on one side.
Can we just get a pillow? No.
Yeah,
It's pretty rough.
sit in it for a while, tell me how rough it is.
I think
That's the biggest increases is just repairs. I mean, it's stuff that's gotta be done. And then our normal maintenance, which I think this year we're real close to going over or at the same. Cause these numbers here, like John said, these aren't the actual numbers. Department equipment, that one's up. Our snow blower is 15 years old. When we originally bought it, it was a commercial grade snow blower. It's just getting wore out. I mean, it's 15 years of use, so if you wanna look at a comparison, in that same time, the town overall has bought 3 snow blowers for the school, at the time that we've had 1 commercial grade snow blower. And we do a lot of snow blowing down there. It makes it easier for the guys that are plowing, all that happy stuff. That is a budget number. I don't want it to give me the exact number, cause if we have to go get pricing, then whoever you give that, you know what I mean?
You're talking about a snow blower?
Yes. The telephone, I actually got the number from the phone company, it's going up a little bit. That also has the GSI in it as well. Uniforms,
That's your
that's the landline.
landline.
Yes,
The GSI, so you can look stuff up online?
that's our computer, that's the internet on the computer.
Excellent.
The uniforms, it's a crapshoot. I'm gonna be putting 3 guys in uniforms, 3 additional guys than what we have this year, and it's pretty expensive to actually get them set up initially, the initial cost.
Is the 2,300 accurate?
Right now,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think it's accurate at all.
Okay.
This was printed
And
on the
that al-
13th as well, so it's a couple weeks.
And that also, in
Or a week.
line also, is the shoes for the guys as well. Whether or not they use the whole dollar amount, the town allows $150, whether or not they use it or not. You know, like mine are like $90, I think, something like that, so it all depends what you got a budget for. Mobile phone,
Why do we need a mobile phone? That's a question that I have.
cause I'm not supposed to use my personal phone for town business,
But,
just like my personal, I've had one
no, but.
when we were trucking.
You have a landline.
Right, but when I'm out on the road with a truck and something happens, I have to be able to contact somebody. And the previous boards have said you're not to use your personal computer or your personal phone. So we've had
So
one
if he's
since day
trucking-
one.
With our truck,
Right.
and he is,
So we're paying
Employees
$600 for a phone,
For a
for an
year.
emergency phone. You could get a 911 phone free and just put it in there, keep it charged, and that'd be it. It wouldn't be no cost to the town. And basically 911 calls, that would be, if it was a 911 call, it'd be no charge at all to the town.
no, but a 911 call, I don't think is what he did for, like, if
No,
this
no,
employee
okay.
have a question.
I
Well,
get
he's
calls
on the
from,
road.
Okay.
I get calls from those guys, the alarm company calls me on that line.
Okay.
It's,
I'm drilling down too
yeah,
deep now.
no, I mean, you can beat it another day if we want, it's
Yeah,
no problem.
okay, that's
Fuel
good.
cost,
Same.
I went up a little bit on that,
Yeah.
cause I'm looking at my numbers, it looks like I'm gonna go over that line, cause I'll still have one more fuel up before the end of the year. Ash lab and testing, I left it the same,
Just,
it's burn pile ash.
they examine that?
We send it in for testing for high metals,
Really?
for when it goes to the landfill.
So in other words, that's why you don't burn, like pressurized
Well,
wood?
it's illegal to burn it,
No, but that's,
yeah,
okay.
cause that comes up in the high metals.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Incineration, that, we had that, that should be MSW, so we don't incinerate anymore.
Oh, you want me to change that?
We did it once, but for some reason it pops up
Okay,
on, depending on who does the budget sheet,
Yeah,
MSW,
that's the trash. And the cost on that, I boosted the tonnage up with the amount of new, I've talked to John, Wiggy just to kinda, cause I know he knows how many houses are coming in town, that kinda thing. And figuring the potential for new houses that are being built, and then the cost, going up.
John who, did you talk
I
to?
talked to Wiggy and asked him, hey, he knows how many houses are coming, he's got a good idea, more so than I do. And we come up with like 35 new houses coming in.
Yeah, but the houses typically get a dumpster, right?
I don't know,
No.
When they
just
move into
the-
them.
The weekly trash.
the weekly trash. So I had to figure, I had to put something, rather than not they all move in at once, you can't take that chance, you have to pay for this. So I put a number in there, boost the tonnage up a little bit, and then,
Is the 51 accurate?
no, cause those, I still have loads that go to January 1. Our last load will go out in next week, next Thursday, will be our last load for the year. Same with demo, our last load goes out when the dumpster's full. If it's full next Thursday, it goes out next Thursday. That's your last load for the year. And same with that, the cost went up per ton. And I boosted the tonnage up a little bit, cause we're very close this year on what I budgeted last year. I mean, you don't know what's gonna come in, you can only give.
On the hazardous waste collection?
That one there, the cost of getting rid of the electronics is going up. The cost of the household hazardous day, still haven't seen the bill
From Bo?
from Bo.
Well, how did we get billed on that day?
They give us, basically, it's all done on percentages, of participation, and then we actually back bill them for some items, and then they credit that towards it, and we end up, this year, he still doesn't have a number, I asked him, I talked to him end of last week, first of this week, and hoping to get the bill across to him, say, hey, we gotta have the bill, I don't know what the bill's gonna be. It usually runs 2,500, 3,000, but the cost went up after they did everything and after we did our budget. The price that they got for that day,
So it's
Actually went up more.
based upon a percentage of how many residents use it? Okay.
and then the overall cost, they get grant money that offsets it as well.
Okay, so it's.
So there's a lot of
overhead,
factors
yeah.
that go into it. One year it was $5,000 for us, our side of it.
That might be a problem year end, especially if it comes in January for.
It's an expense in this year, you just do 2 batches, one for new year, one for old year.
Okay,
That's why we juggle a lot, and it gets really,
okay,
He was hoping to have it next week.
okay.
And there's a bunch of other outstanding bills on, that's why that shows a little bit there. But
Okay,
I know we shipped, two weeks ago, we shipped a load of electronics, a tractor trail load. I haven't got the bill yet for that. That could be $3,000-4,000 just for that load. When you have some other, that line also has, we did freons again. That we just did tires, Brad did tires Wednesday morning, there's a bill coming for that, there was, I don't know, 135 tires,
okay.
something like that.
Would it be new to the board, I'm gonna ask, just like it did the last
Sure.
department? What was your increase last year, do you remember approximate?
No, but the big items typically, last year would have been employees' pay,
I'll include that in the next report.
Okay.
and your trash and demo costs. Those costs there go up every year.
It's 9% upgrade.
You know, and like I said, depending, on the tires. If we can get tires this year, if there's money left to do it this year, then you can decrease some out of that line. But my tires are getting to the point, they're splitting up the sides. And they were actually re-grooved so we could run them again. Typically, you don't run them this far, we
This
kind
is
of
the,
re-groove.
this is the, skid steer.
Yeah, for skid steer tires. They're a flat proof tire, they're an expensive tire, but we got a ton of hours out of them. And the ones that we're looking at this time, they're, when I went to the website and talked to the saleswoman, they're more designed for what we're doing. We're running on hot top, we're running on concrete. They'll work in the dirt.
Are you gonna use a local company to purchase them, or are you gonna try doing?
No, actually, I talked to the manufacturer themselves, and they come, she's out of, Jacksonville, Florida, so she comes from, they'll ship them, no charge, cause my municipality said, I'm sure it's built in someplace, nobody does nothing for nothing. But she said for municipalities, no charge ship, it'll be a ship right to us.
Have you checked like local tire companies for the similar tire?
Nope. I haven't. I
Yeah.
went with the same brand that we have, McLaren's, I had good luck with them, right across the board. I don't think you'll find a local tire company they're gonna get them from, in my opinion, they're gonna get them from the same company. I don't think they'll get the break that we will. I don't know, I can definitely look into it.
If
Time
it's-
comes
if
into
it's
it.
an
I would
electric line,
think-
it's a lot.
I would think at the end of this year, here, a couple of phone calls around
Yep.
to like Mr. G's or someplace that's used to doing
Yep.
that type of equipment tire. Even Sullivan's down here, I think on the
Yep.
boat.
You just have to make sure you're comparing apples, brands to brands, because
That's what
there
you're
is,
gonna do.
I went on the, right, when I went on the internet, I did find some that look just like it, but they're not the same tire. They're,
I'm sure tire
Knock
companies
on.
will be familiar with it. at
Yep.
least.
I like the highlights here, that's good.
Oh, I didn't see that page yet.
It's good. It's basically a summary of what you just, it's great. And you also have Woody, I'm jumping the gun here, I won't let you finish. Your hazardous waste collections, and so you're up about 9% from last year, basically.
some, like I said, some of it can be adjusted, if you, like I said, if you buy tires this year, you can knock that out of it. But if you don't this time, you're gonna have to buy
It's
it
still
next
gonna be
time.
needed, yeah.
So,
Right now.
and if this hazardous waste, like I said, I don't know what my year-end total is. I'm going off from what I budgeted, if I don't spend nearly that much, and obviously we can change that around.
Right.
But I don't know, because not all the bills have come in.
Okay. And then the third page is maintenance wish list.
Yes, some of it was when, stuff I had gone over with Bob,
Yeah.
and walked around down there, just picking out stuff. It's not, I'm not saying it all has to be done now, I just the general.
Any order, a priority?
The locks I'd like to do this year.
I would ask, could you look at that one more time and prioritize them as you see you'd like to see them done,
Okay?
okay? Would that be all right, gentlemen?
Yeah, cause this, some of this will get done through the maintenance.
Right.
Well, that's where this would all come from.
Right,
Yeah.
but the thing is prioritize them, so in other words, if we say we wanna do some things spread across the board, I wanna make sure that I get the ones that are most important to you.
Right, well, like when I put on there, building expansion, we talked about it at one point, we gotta figure out which way we're gonna go.
How about rebuild burn pit?
At some point, I'm not saying it's gonna be done now, but the blocks are taking a beating from all the heat. At some point, we're gonna have to put new blocks up. It's not a huge cost, but it's a cost. At some point, we're gonna have to do it.
Woody, did you have here, deal with undrinkable water? Did you look at the water test that I gave you?
Yeah, it says it's,
Don't drink it.
don't drink it.
Yours is the best,
The
Ours
time
is full of arsenic.
the whole town is full, but yours is a lower level than everybody
Actually,
else.
Yeah, it takes you longer to die.
I thought the report said ours was beyond acceptable limits.
I'll look at it.
And I'll have to look at, but that's why I put in, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
The thing is, you know, to put in a water treatment system versus buying bottled water.
Well, that would be an option.
Bottled water might be just what you need, like a bubbler or something, for your employees, not for the town, for the
Right, right.
employees, take care of them. Agreed? And yours is off the
Is,
chart,
yeah.
you can't even go, you can't even smell the water.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. His is,
You get the same water.
I test mine though, and I have put the capital improvement to treat. I know what it costs, I was gonna say, bottled water can go a long way.
Thanks,
Okay.
Woody, I think everything on your
Yeah.
budget.
Yep, good. I think we're good.
thank you, Woody.
Okay. You wanna do a Stockbridge portion?
Merry
Jimmy?
Christmas, Woody.
Have a good Christmas.
Take care, have a good holiday.
Thanks for coming in on your vacation, my friend.
Hey, can I just say something before you start that?
Sure.
Thanks for, trying to stick with me on Mr. Grun and I Montag. That's a fair compliment.
I thought so.
Yeah, it was not unreasonable. It was gonna be a big argument.
He didn't seem like, you know,
He didn't want 200.
He went up the first jump and he went up the
Oh,
next
you had
jump,
already
so.
forewarned
I
him,
told
that's what
him
you're
that.
looking
He
for?
said, oh, he thought the number was way out of line. I said, I was thinking something like $200. Oh, I said, well,
Well,
I said, I want the town to be in the driver's seat.
I decided to go up a little bit.
You know, I think that was
Because
fine.
to protect the town.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm just gonna tell you something else. After I left here, I went home and I dug out the plan to overlook the stakes.
Yeah,
I counted just the house lots, not including bounds for the open space.
sure.
I stopped at 65,
So there's more to be done.
It's half.
not 50.
Right.
So I mean, that's give
So they have
indication.
33.
That's what I'm up
dumps.
against
They have
all the
half, yeah.
time out there. It's always that.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, it's all that, always pushing a little
Well,
bit. So it's good.
I wanted to continue a
Continue and
guarantee.
guarantee. That's perfect.
And,
Yeah, no, it's good. They will get the stuff
They
done.
basically added an extra $10,000 to the budget.
There's, they will get the items we want done, there'll be no problem.
Good.
I know it'll.
But I thought you were lowballing me there from, I thought you were gonna recommend to go with a lower number.
Oh, no, I wanted 200.
I know.
Time and a half times 140, add another 70 to it, and I was, which is 210, but I was gonna settle for 200.
I wanted to make sure I had
I
enough.
seen you do that, but then you weren't jumping all over it, so I didn't follow up on it.
I think we got our point across, and,
But the engineer had missing some items on there already, so I thought his was too low, so.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay, let's, all right, now, let's talk about your funding for the bridge. We have a couple options, that Lean brought up to me today. Lean, I'm gonna let you, she's looking like I do.
Yep, okay. I
Why,
got it.
why are you looking? We have some, remember, as we started this year, gentlemen, we wanted to grow the reserve.
Yeah,
We've done a good job in that. We have had some growth in this town, not a lot, but we had some properties coming out of use penalties.
Yeah, I think we're looking at about 10 new homes right now.
Right.
And then we've got 3 that just we recorded this week for our plan.
So we
And
get
then
some,
We have another 10 in the next calendar year for that same subdivision.
so what I'm saying with all that, we have some, we have some revenue coming, we have unanticipated revenue.
Well, yes, anticipated revenue, but
Right.
we can't guarantee that we'll get it.
No, but
what do you wanna give, 100 grand back to the voters?
I would like to make sure that, I don't wanna hamstring the road agent's budget for next year and not do any work in town. So he'll be doing nothing.
We will do some,
Right, but the thing is,
we will do some.
I think some of the funds can come out of our,
If we look at this one, Dave,
That's what I was looking for.
yeah,
yeah,
the one with the lines and the vendors on there. I think you started writing all of yours.
Yeah, that's what I've written on.
Yep, up here on the right-hand side, we have, the warrant for Stockbridge was 65,000.
You had given me, you showed me another page also, it wasn't this one, was it? Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, and then in the expenses over the year, because of unforeseen things like the wetlands, the engineering, other things, We have spent on other charges $17,960. We also put a deposit on the precast in order to get it built, $22,938.90, which leaves a balance just on those two, the other charges, miscellaneous, and the precast deposit, a warrant balance of $24,101. So, things that we know today, we have outstanding precast 70% of $53,524. It's this one that has all the 5 different vendors,
Single sheet?
the single sheet.
Oh, okay, it's on the side.
Yeah, I've got it on the side. Keep going, keep going. Nope, keep going.
If you wanna look at contract.
It's the bid for start. We're going to, I gave you too much stuff tonight.
It's all right.
Just trying to see, I didn't, it's not that one, right?
No, show them, looks like that.
That's the one with all the bids on it.
The one we were using for the bids, I was doing the numbers.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Add, subtract it, yeah, and subtract, add it back in, take it away again, yeah.
That was the one.
That was a good one though, I almost had us down there.
Okay, so anyways, the warrant was 65, we had, other charges miscellaneous 17,960. We had a 30% deposit for the precast of the bridge, that's up here on the right-hand side, Bob. And so, and that was 22,938, so now we own a bridge, but we still owe 70% of that bridge. So just those two.
$52,000.
Right, so those two, without the remainder of the cast, the bridge,
It's 53,524 actually.
right? But the
Ah,
warrant
right.
itself has 24,101,
That's
and that
right.
lapses at the end of 2019, by the way. So, that being said, we still owe 70%, 53,524, and the board has, in the past, said that if there was any increase over the cost, that he would absorb it from his budget. We're going to the highway budget, on the expense sheets that I gave you. If we pay out the $53,524 out of his budget today, which without this last week's expenses, he has a balance of 79,000, oh, that's right. 40, 50, I thought you had 102.
No,
Yeah, 79,000.
that's what Alice had ran, that's this week's, I believe.
Now, none of the other ones were accurate tonight, so how accurate is that?
I ran the report today,
Yeah.
but the way the worksheet spreads this out in 2 amounts, so I'm thinking the 411, 1, 2, plus the 80, plus the 50, plus the 20. Oh, so it's 150 plus that, so you have 45 and 32, so you have 79,443
Yeah.
is what he has in
That's
his
what
budget
Allison
right
gave me a
now.
worksheet tonight, for this week, I have to do it, that's what it said.
If he uses the outstanding to buy the remainder of the precast that's owed, he'd be leaving, 25,919.
Enough to finish a year?
Enough to buy the bridge, the cast itself.
We have some outstanding bills and obviously we're having a snowstorm coming up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say about 24,000.
Yeah, so we're in fine shape, we're not gonna run out of money,
For that budget alone.
you know,
But if you
to
go to
finish
the-
out our year.
If you go to the thick sheet, all the budgets that I gave you, and go to the last page, that's what we have bottom line right now. It's about 9 pages together, it's pretty thick.
This one.
Yeah, you go to the last page,
I have the library,
it's sideways like that,
Actual anticipated revenues? No.
that's revenues,
right here.
that's it.
Budget.
Yeah, go to the last page. So what I did for you today, I ran this budget, and then I calculated on the high end, possible expenses for next week. And that's not including the things that I'm hearing tonight, that Woody says he has some outstanding, John says he has some, expenses outstanding,
Alright,
but
if we go back
related to
the front page, you
payroll,
see what this
to,
is. Budget, actual, variance,
Lot of numbers.
and department head.
Yeah, so the right hand, you're going to the third column in the middle, that's what we're looking at. What we have left remaining is 254,124.
Yeah,
We have possible, by my interpretation, 48,764 for payroll and other incidentals.
Yeah.
I'm hearing tonight, John's got some invoices outstanding, Woody's got some expenses outstanding, and the highway department will have some, expenses, so that number will fluctuate a little bit, but just using that number to really give us an idea, we have 205,360. And then deducting that precast number from that,
no, not the.
from the
precast.
205, because that's still in there. 205, 360, minus the 53,524.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
We're actually looking at 205, 360 minus 52. 5, we're looking at 152,836. Now, I included that Stockbridge funding needed, but that's part of what outstanding.
So yeah, you have 152 and you're talking about taking the 87 out of that, so it would be,
Yeah, so then we take 87,
Yeah.
24. We'd have, actually, go back to this budget spreadsheet, this bridge contract, we have 85,000 from the state that we have,
yeah, but
Encumbered.
outstanding is 87, that's not changing.
that's right.
So
But-
bring that back to the number you were just working on,
So we're going to, let's see, 87,
off of the 152.
152, there's 87. 167. Brings us down to 65,169, which will lapse to the general fund.
If we don't encumber the road agents. For
Correct.
the 87.
Correct. So the other option is to, you have
She's
150.
talking about not encumbering your budget. Right?
So,
And using the general fund money.
correct, but you're still, this 152 is spending, buying the bridge.
I know.
That's paid for. The
You went
87
over
is
that.
still outstanding. So you have 152,000 remaining. You can either do a couple of things, overspend the highway budget. I know that this does come in stages. In his proposal, there's 48,000 for step one, 52,000 for step two, whichever, if we look at the detail, and then 84,000 is more at the end of the completion of the bridge. So you can either authorize him to overspend his 570,000 today, or have him pay the bridge, close out the year, and this lapsing money, apply it to this 87,000 outstanding through a warrant. I don't know that you wanna
You don't have
increase.
to use a warrant, you just do it.
You can with the contract. If you do that with a contract, then you can, bottom line, spend everything that you've been allocated from town voters.
That's why we're trying to get a contract before the end of the year, so
Yeah.
you can encumber his money to
And-
cover part of that contract.
If we get a solid number from him next week, and it's in that 87,000 range, and you know you have 152,
Well, we already have a solid number from them, they're just gonna finalize the
That's-
rate.
that's gonna-
You need a contract,
Right, which we gave them the go-ahead to do.
yeah,
right, but
Yeah.
we still need it signed
yeah,
in front of us
yeah,
in order to encumber any money.
yeah, before the end of the last day of the year,
Let me tell you something,
I think we're
just
overthinking.
sitting here, you're overthinking.
yeah,
Just from
Just-
sitting here listening.
Just
Yeah.
use
I
your
think
money.
just-
Let's
like
just
we
keep
talked
this
about.
simple, pay the 53,
yep,
we got plenty of money in the highway department
Yeah.
budget, cause we knew we were gonna have some expenses.
yep,
So I held off on some stuff, that'll take care of the structure.
Yeah.
Then all we got left is installation.
mhm,
I'm gonna have, after the 56, I'm gonna have some money in there, but right now, we're talking hypothetical number.
You're talking about 24,000 or so.
And that's gonna drop considerably.
Right.
It could considerably be 10,000.
Yeah, we have
Just
still
return it
to-
to the general fund.
And then encumber the funds to just this year to pay the first deposit of 40 something.
No, I don't think you
No.
understand, Jeff.
She's talking about the whole, what's left of the whole town budget.
Is taken either
Yeah.
out of the town's budget or Jeff's budget, so
Yeah.
those are the two real discussions here.
Well,
Take that 52 to pay off the structure of
Right,
mine.
got you
Right.
there.
But that's only gonna leave me 24.
Right, we have
By
to,
the time we pay all the bills and
Yeah.
the future snowplow,
Yeah.
that's gonna leave a small portion. I'm just saying $10,000, that's
Yeah.
gonna even
Yeah.
number.
okay,
but
So-
my point is for reporting in the
Yep.
town report, if the guys say, pay the bill out of this budget,
Yep.
I will report it in his lines
Right.
as a deficit, so that when you go to explain the budget, you can tell the taxpayers, we ran over on the highway budget because we felt it was important with the remaining, potential remaining, funds that we had, that we,
And so then we would be
Sign a
returning the 152 to the voters at that point?
65, 169 would lapse to the general fund.
Yeah, but you don't know if that's an accurate number.
How did
No,
you
it's
get-
gonna be in that range.
How did you get to 65?
Well, I took the 152 and I had to subtract the 87. That's what you asked me to do.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's the bottom line budget of what we have from everybody's balance.
that's if we use the town's overbody, and not if
It's-
we encumber Jeff's budget.
He doesn't have enough to cover that whole cost.
But he will after the new year,
Yes.
Yes,
which is what we talked about previously.
Yes.
So now you're talking about a different method, and we're
Yeah.
discussing between the two methods.
correct, yeah. It-
So, when we're in front of the voters,
Yeah,
do we wanna look like we're using last year's money to cover this bridge, or do we wanna look like we're using whatever's left of Jeff's money and Jeff's money next year to do
Yeah.
it? To keep it clean for the voters.
okay, we
That's
can
what I
do
would
that.
do.
That's how we discussed it last week.
right, that was as an option. But the
As
thing
an
is,
option.
the only,
This,
the
and
only,
we did ask you to lay out all the
Yeah,
options for us,
yeah,
which
I-
is what you've done.
Yeah,
So
not
we have two
entirely,
methods of doing it,
correct,
and I wanna go into the front of the voters the best way possible.
yeah. You just have to hope that they approve the budget the way you present it.
right, but the thing is,
No, cause
I
they're gonna
don't,
look at just budget, cause he's not increasing his line items.
Yeah.
He's basically using his budget that he's always had
Yep,
to encumber these additional costs.
Right.
So I think, to me, that's gonna be more palatable to the voter, cause he's basically accepting responsibility for it in his department.
yep.
And we should take this extra money and either give it back to the voters,
Yeah.
Typically,
put it away.
how you would do that is.
or
you-
put it in our 5% surplus.
Correct. And typically, if you wanted to use that
Exactly.
$52,000, then you would just present the budget and then you'd vote on using this surplus to apply to the budget itself.
Yep,
To
That
reduce the
reduces the
bottom
tax rate.
line,
Right.
to,
Which is
to
what-
lower the
it's
bottom
given,
line.
in other words, giving it back to the taxpayers.
which is
Yes.
what
Which is what-
Ted would do, but Ted went too low on the reserves, is what
Yeah.
he thought.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
This bridge installation, if you take the 85, which we got from the state,
Mm,
that we have in a non-lapsing accounts management.
correct, that's not part of our
And
revenue, it's
then
not
we
part
take
of
the
the,
24.
Yeah, which we
for warrant
deducted right
article,
off,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Which, that'll give us 108,000,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
No?
No,
Yep.
87,000 left.
In what?
That's what will be left, Jeff, after you take,
85 and 24.
you take the 196, you minus 85,
Yeah.
then you minus the
Oh,
12
okay,
of the
you,
warrant.
Correct,
yeah, so
You're
basically,
basically ending up with $87,000 for next year.
it's gonna have to come out of my
Yes.
operating budget.
Yep.
Right,
Right.
and which
I
is
think
getting
we should
smaller by the
treat it
day.
just like a road project.
Yeah,
And, you know, like I'm gonna pay,
and I think that will be
Why?
cleanest to the voters.
and I don't
And
wanna
then-
go back
And then we take the
money.
additional
Right.
money and give it back to the voters.
Yeah.
If the
funding.
budget affords it, kind of support it.
And then
We
and it's still, to carry it a step further, still wanna ask for that $100,000.
Which you always do anyway.
or a warrant,
So basically, your warrant articles and your budget aren't changing from what they were in the previous years.
Yep,
And you
And
treat,
you know you have this expense coming out of this budget right from the get-go.
Yep.
And it's clean and neat for the voters.
that makes the most sense to
And
me,
you treat
we're
it-
working within our
and you
means.
treat it as a project.
Yeah, exactly, and unfortunately, the cost has gone up dramatically, but it was always the intention to install it out of the operating.
To me,
budget.
You know, as you talked about before, you've accepted responsibility for it.
Yeah.
This is the second half of accepting that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna go and say, well, geez, we need more money, I think it's the work, to me, it's just, I couldn't accept,
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna do it.
But the thing is, the thing is, remember, you have a wish list of where people meet with you.
Yep.
And some voters may be upset with the fact that you're not gonna get to them this year.
That's true.
But then again, you're gonna have some people out, you can't please everybody, because you're gonna have people upset on Ray Road who can't use
Unfortunately,
the
we're
bridge.
invested in this project to a point, we gotta finish it.
Yeah. I had a comment, Leo, I'm interested in what you're saying, you're
Well,
hearing this.
I agree with Dave, because you guys made it really simple last week, and now you're
Yeah.
making it a big knot.
But
And what it is what's gonna happen is, if that money you wanna take out of surplus to pay the remainder, what you're doing is taxing the people for this, and you shouldn't be doing that. Jeff is right, it should be treated as part of his budget,
project.
because what's happening is, then you should put that on the town warrant and see if the people wanna expend that money. And if they don't, then what do?
We're stuck with a bridge of nowhere.
There you go.
I
So you
think-
had it right last week,
No,
and
no,
you're making it
we
difficult.
wanna look at all options.
But I did ask,
Yeah.
and Lean's here, I asked her to lay out 2 or 3 options for us
Right.
on how to finance this, so
But
this is
now
our
it's getting
discussion.
like all twisted
Yeah.
and turned, and Jeff's right, you're overthinking it.
I
You
think
had
it's
a
gotta-
really good plan
Keep it
last
simple.
week.
Yeah.
Put the money in the
Yeah,
reserve or
and
whatever you
hearing the
wanna
other
do,
ways to
and then
fund it, Leo, I'm,
when you,
as you can see, I'm in agreement to that.
Yeah, I agree with you when you
Okay,
brought it
I think we have
up.
consensus. Bob, go ahead.
Just to make a point, I've always said it would come out of Jeff's budget. But if you were gonna go any other route, we need a contract to encumber any monies.
yes.
Correct.
In order to make a payment, so I just want you to understand that.
Yep.
Yep.
When at the end of the month, if we're gonna do something a different way, you gotta have something.
But
to
I
encumber
want the
money.
contract anyway, just so we
But-
kinda know where we're at.
But I agree with you, Jeff, it should, and we
Yeah.
were in consensus that it should come out of your budget.
Yeah.
And actually, the work you wanna do now on the road is gonna end up being a warrant article that the
Yeah.
town would have to accept. You would make that argument, you would say, hey, we gotta finish the top coat on.
And the other thing is with that warrant article, let's say the townspeople, they just, they got a school project going on, we got this going on, and they were like, hey, listen, we're not gonna give you $100,000. It won't be the end of the world, we could actually delay that top coat on the road. I don't wanna do that, I really wanna do it, and we still could do a certain amount of road work.
So
We-
when
we
you're
can do
in there
something.
on that warrant article, you're gonna have to explain, sealing of that road is gonna help that road.
No, every year I've said, we will be back, not we, but I will be back representing the highway department to ask for this again, because
In lieu of a bond.
in lieu of, yeah, exactly. I think we're all in consensus, and I think that surplus money, I would think you would be better off, if there's other needs in the town and you tell the taxpayers, hey, we're gonna take some of that surplus money to address another issue, not this bridge
Or
over the.
we give it back to, in a
Or
sense
give it
that
back and
offset the taxes.
And then do a warrant article for anything new, like we talked about, we gotta discuss something with the painting of the town.
Well, the thing is, some of the painting, some of the money can be, we're not, it's gonna go back to the voters or lower the tax bill.
Yeah.
But in the budget, we're gonna talk about it later, is Lean's budget, we increase the maintenance line to allow painting and visibility, painting in the library, but that budget line is gonna be increased.
Right.
And the thing is, we'll have to explain it to the voters that in our budget line, we've increased that. Warren, if they can turn the whole thing down, but I think it's gotta be done.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll go ahead and pay the rest of that bridge off. I have the original, the contract from Mitchie
You're
that
supposed to
said
be
it was
sending a
a,
new invoice.
right, but it does say right there that it's a 20, I want an invoice to make sure there wasn't any other
Yep.
hidden costs, but,
Yeah, and they don't want the money yet.
no, I'm not doing that, I just need to
They don't
have
want the
an
money this
invoice for the
I
auditor
understand, it's
to
to
encumber the
unencumber it.
money, because
They
it's a
don't, I
contract,
tried to
we've
get an
already,
invoice on, they don't want the money.
So-
Cause it's too close to the end of the year, they got the year end figured out, they want it next year.
Yeah, it's
Right.
getting late,
Yeah,
the
it's
longer you
9:50.
guys talk, the more Christmas Day I'm gonna be doing this.
Okay, well, general, the consensus of the board was reached that the funding of the additional funds required to install the bridge will come out of the road agent's budget,
Yeah,
period.
get it done.
and I'm just gonna go ahead and process the
I'm in
53.
consensus, is that you, Bob?
Yeah.
We talked about it last week, I think it's the most transparent for the voters, it's the clearest way for the voters.
Cleanest.
And, they don't have to understand encumbering monies from the leftover budget.
And rushing to get a contract.
And I think it'll go a long way showing some of that money going back to the voters this year, if there's enough there to do.
Jeff's taking accountability for the increased cost, we're taking accountability from where the money's coming from, so it's all transparent. People know where it's coming from, and and it's clean, and it's not a juggling act, so.
End of subject, we have completed the,
Fine, I
Financial
think it's
business.
wonderful, I'm glad we can come to a decision on all parts of it.
yep. Okay, I've got 5 minutes left.
Alright,
I turn into
request from Donna Dunn to appoint Linda Nickerson to the Dunbarton Historical Awareness Committee.
I'll make a motion.
Wait, is that going in the mailbox?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
You just told us to hurry, now you slow us down.
I'll give you my little notes.
Do you have the paperwork or do I?
You have the paperwork.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Cause you have to sign the appointment paper, it should be
We'll
attached.
sign it till we vote on it.
Just get my pen a little bit.
What was the motion again? I'm sorry.
I'm gonna make the motion, David Knoll
Dave.
made the motion,
Okay, good.
um,
To appoint Linda Nickerson to
to
the,
appoint Linda Nixon to the committee.
Dunbarton
Historical Awareness Committee.
And I'll second his motion.
Any discussion on this?
Nope.
No, all in favor?
Aye. Go ahead.
I'm glad I won't my pen up. Keep that with it. Okay, Eversource is gonna be doing, some maintenance work in Bone and Dunbarton. They're making the wooden supports into steel. And they'll be working from, through the end of 2018. It will begin in December. And, Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, and Saturdays from 8 to 5. No interruption in services anticipated.
It's already started.
That was just an FYI. And that's so I should get the name of the person.
Yeah. Jeff, have you, any issues with them coming onto your road with that heavy equipment, or?
Nope.
They're taking
Okay.
care of it properly?
Oh, yeah, they seem to make all construction entrances.
Could you make sure this gets forwarded? There was an issue in the paper, we all read about it, but the SAU 19 withholding money from the taxpayers. We may be included in that. Please pass this information on to the school board.
you want, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You said you wanted to read it as well, right? So I'll send it to you.
Yeah, if you could.
It's all
Or
the papers.
if you want, just put a copy in my basket, Lean's fine.
You can take that one.
I can? Well, we all signed that one, so,
Okay,
It's gonna go.
I'm not gonna keep it.
you know,
No.
okay.
Okay.
We're signing this stuff for fun?
Well, some things I have to
Practice.
keep.
Okay. Amy was here. 2 weeks ago at the Selectmen's meeting, we came to an agreement that we all agreed that Lean could take 1 week of pay and transfer it into compensation, 1 week of vacation. We never did put it into the minutes. I just like to put it in the minutes tonight that the Selectmen were in consensus that the town administrator could cash in 1 week of leave. That's essentially it.
Yeah.
We already agreed on that, but it wasn't noted in the minutes, for whatever reason.
Actually, you wanna give that to her? She
Yeah.
probably can use it for the minutes.
Yeah, okay. I just wanna make it in the public thing. Selectmen got a request from, one of our employees to talk about, House Bill, 561. And that's reducing the number of hours that retirees can work, part-time from 32 to
12, was it?
20.
Oh, 20?
Yeah, which hasn't passed, right?
No.
No, but the thing is, at this point, the Senate's committee, came out of committee, ought to pass. I foresee it passing, it's got a lot of support. She asked if we could consider, as a board, making a recommendation to our representatives and to, it's a controversial subject. I'm not sure I wanna act on it tonight, but the thing is, I'm looking for input from my fellow selectmen.
Well, I will say that in this day and age, it's getting so hard to find employees in any company. And, the fact that they wanna limit a retiree doesn't seem to make much sense in this economy to me, if they wanna work.
And they're capable of working. You know?
So that to me, in this economy, makes very little sense.
The only thing we'd like to, I agree with you there, and I also agree that, what I like about it, the employee who brought it up, there's a grandfather clause, it won't affect her. But this affects future retirees who wanna continue working, albeit in a part-time status, but contributing. And
Right.
this is telling them, you can't.
There's a problem with, the double dipping, as far as the impact it is to the state retirement system. So you're either gonna allow people that retire and going back into the same, pension system, but working under that system, taking a job instead of, and unfortunately, sometimes they're not full-time jobs, but a lot of them have been, where they've reduced them to part-timers doing the same job, which has put that pension in an $8.1 billion deficit. And the impact is, future retirees going to retire are gonna get smaller benefits because the pension can't sustain the level of benefits that they're paying now. And that's what the problem is now, and that was spearheaded by Neil Kirk and Weir
Yep.
to set up a committee to find out what was happening, and what's happening, and it's with firefighters, policemen, people that are in
Public service.
secretarial part, that are going back to work part-time and eating up those hours that contributing to the pension system.
Because they don't pay in.
So, I'm not gonna take.
They're not paying it.
Those hours don't pay
No,
in.
they don't pay in,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't take a position one way or the other when I wasn't any part of a study committee that looked at what the impact is either way. So I would abstain from getting involved with my officials and saying, hey, I want you to back off, because I don't know what the impact is.
There are pros and
The
cons,
impact
for
would
sure.
be when you go to retire, you get a smaller pension because all these part-timers are working
Yep.
and in a sense defrauding the system.
Yeah, and I don't think that I think, look, going forward, they've really figured out what they don't want to happen. But the people that are still under that umbrella and grandfathered, they're still double dipping.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, they're not
So it
really
doesn't-
correcting the problem, they're
Yeah.
just stopping the problem from
Right.
moving forward.
Yeah,
And so the thing is, I think it's a tough subject because there are pros and cons, and it may hurt someone near term, but the thing is, as a group, it's gonna hurt all New Hampshire
I
retirees.
think we let them figure it out.
Thank you.
We had enough on it.
You know, to be real honest, that study committee has been on for almost 8 years now, looking into the pension and how to correct it.
yeah,
And that was one of the highlights they identified, was the double dipping.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we have enough stuff to worry about on our end of it.
All right, moving on, next subject. We'd like to appoint a member, there's a committee of the co-op and cooperative community, where we need a joint board representative, an alternate to the joint board for the Concord Regional Solid Waste Recovery Cooperative, which we're still part of supposedly. At this point, Lean, in the past, it's been a selectman, and the alternate has been Woody.
Yeah.
I think Woody's got his hands full. I like to keep him as the alternate, but I'd like to ask a selectman if they'd like to think about it. I'll leave it for next week, no decision this week. Or I'd like to consider, we have a citizen in town who has got a lot of experience with this, Roger
Roger Rice?
Rice. I'd like to consider Roger Rice for this position, if he'd be interested, and then we can revisit it next week. Gentlemen, what do you think about that?
I think let's revisit it.
But if any of you selectmen wanna jump up to that opportunity, I don't think that cooperative, I think we dropped out, essentially dropped out of it, because we got money back from them, did we not?
Yeah,
And so I think that's kinda like on its last leg, so,
Yeah, I think they still participate.
They do.
In order to receive whatever it
yeah,
is, but
there are benefits there to be.
okay,
you may wanna see if Woody wanted to be
principal,
the principal and have someone else as an alternate, but just think about it either way, and then next week we can
Right,
make a decision.
right, I just put it out there so we can talk about it during the week, not with each other, but with other people. And the mailbox is almost empty. This is just concerning one of our employees. Just an FYI, this is not to be named, do not release the name, it doesn't involve the name, just one of our town employees concerning injury coverage.
Can I see it? I won't put a
No,
name
you
down.
can't.
I can't see it. I'm getting tired, guys. I can't think too
It's
good.
terrible.
That's just an FYI. Selectmen, I'm gonna go to you, Dave, first, anything for the board? Oh, hang on. Leo, I'm gonna open up to the public for you.
Okay, one question for Lean.
Yep.
I just need to know the dates that you're gonna be away, not for myself. Someone asked me to find out.
Oh, I'm going to be out of town, we're closed on the 15th of January, office is closed.
Oh, yeah, right, Martin
Okay.
Luther King.
Yeah, so I will be out of the office the 16th.
Yep.
And returning on the 25th for the
Okay.
meeting.
Okay,
And I told her that if she's running late, do not speed to make it for the meeting, cause she's flying
yeah,
in that day.
I'm not concerned about the meeting.
So the selectmen will be holding a meeting that night, I just won't be.
Yeah, right, but I mean, this is for Donna Dunn,
Yep,
okay, so,
Okay,
still the right ask, she wanted to know.
Who's gonna be running the town?
the selectmen.
Oh, okay.
hang on to your
Good
seats.
answer.
Now, to you, Dave.
Good luck,
Back to
straighten
Selectmen.
everything out, or something.
Yeah,
You did say-
Sharon, please.
I was wondering, Lean, do we have any response back from SCORE?
Nothing, so now it's time to get the attorney.
Yeah, I would think if we could start that phone call and maybe finish up at the beginning of the year,
thank
get her
you.
thinking about doing that.
Now that we have snow on the roof.
There are, although it's inside work, so.
No, but the thing is, what I'm saying, we have snow on the roof, which is load. And we're going into winter again, we have load on the roof. And this is the engineer would not, he considers it unsafe
It
as.
hasn't fallen down for 100 years now.
I know.
There are two maintenance, things being done on the power lines. One which has started is the upgrade of the poles, whether they're steel or wood, they're upgrading them. The second item is the widening of those rights of ways. And the widening of those rights of way, we were supposed to have a meeting, and they tried to make a joint meeting between the town of Goffstown and Dunbarton, and we refused that joint meeting.
Mm-hmm,
And we were supposed to have another town of Dunbarton meeting.
mm-hmm.
We need to get them back on the agenda and get them in front because,
Is this the alternative to the Northern Pass project?
yes, so if that's off the books, then I'd like to, know for our residents.
Yep.
But if they're still on the books and that
Yep.
widening's gonna take place, I'd like to also, a bunch of those ribbons and flags are in your road system, you're gonna be knocking them over this winter.
Yeah, I think they were reference points more.
Well, they were the reference on the widenings, but they're right on your tire edge,
Yeah,
so
no,
they're
I-
gonna be gone, so I'd like to figure out what they're doing, cause it's been months now that we haven't heard anything
I
back.
did send him at
August
least
they
2 emails, which they responded to, but he didn't have a date scheduled that he could give me commit to.
Yeah, or maybe even get a date of when they plan, like, the work that's being done there now, they've given us a date after January 1st.
Yep,
But that work, you don't have a date on yet.
yep,
No,
no. And this is
she wants to know.
related to widening more so
Well,
than.
it's concerning the competing proposal to the Northern Pass, which involves the expanding of the current lines we have running through Dunbarton. What they were supposed, they met with one board already of the planning board, I believe,
No, Board of Assessors.
Board of Assessors, and they wanna make a presentation to the town, which is required by law, that they talk to the town and have an invitational meeting for the town residents come in and ask questions on the proposed project, which is competing with Northern Pass. And they claim at a lower cost and less impact to the.
I don't know if we,
Northern Pass?
I don't know if we wanna go into all that
No, but-
detail, but we could just state the name of the company that's
It's,
actually doing it.
it's
I
a,
have to
it's
look
a
at
subsidiary of
more than
National
it's-
Grid.
yes.
National Grid.
Yeah, National Grid, yeah. The widening from National Grid, I'd like to find out whether they're doing it and what the dates are.
Yeah, they have another name for the subsidiary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A number of months ago, Lean and I met with some officials from Eversource and other companies, and they were explaining the scope of the work on the
Yeah,
right
that's
of
the
way.
work that's actually being done right now.
And it was the clearing of the trees back to the edge
It's
of the
this
right.
company we wanna call back.
And they did indicate to us there would be more meetings, but,
All right.
remember, I came and met with you, and they were all in their suits, and
Yep, yep.
a couple gals came with them, and they were just, kind of an overview.
Does Lean have one?
I'm sure I do, but
The name of the company for the record is Granite State Power Inc. All right, now, anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Bob?
Well, there's a couple, because we never voted on this, but, I think Mike Underwood has work to finish in the spring, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
yeah.
we never voted to encumber the monies.
You don't have to, we have a
Don't have to?
contract and I've already taken it out of the budget.
Okay, you took it out.
Yep,
Same thing with the library door?
Yep, that's another one, and again, it's been a little bit busy, but I do plan on giving you a total list of the encumbrances.
Okay,
That,
good,
because that'll be reported in a separate column in our report.
okay.
So, now I'm gonna go to the town administrator.
I'm all set, you've covered everything.
Corin, how are we doing? Christmas Eve, you will be working?
I have a big party Christmas Eve
Okay.
with all my relatives, I'll be working Christmas Day.
No, these aren't due till, for 5 work days, so you have until Thursday, so they don't get to me till Wednesday or Thursday. You have until Thursday, I know you like to get it done when it's fresh, but you need to take a break.
Well, it's tomorrow,
Okay,
it's tomorrow. It's a couple more hours than today, too.
okay. All right,
I love you all.
I have no other business, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 10:11.
Second.
Oh, did you do a final last public comment?
Yeah, we
I
did
did.
that.
Yeah.
And it was,
No, well,
Nobody
Leo
had-
asked a question about,
When I was taking
when he
time
was
off.
taking leave,
That's-
take time off.
okay, I'll get it from you, I'm tired.
Skip it.
What time is it that we adjourn?
10:11.
This is just an informational thing related to score construction, the pieces of steel.